So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we do not have any meeting minutes, but we do have a joint meeting of the Acushnet Board of Selectmen and the Board of Assessors to discuss the open appointment of Mark Cinerizio, his open term. It's scheduled to expire on May 13th, 2023, at which time the position will appear on the annual town election ballot for a full 3-year term. So this is essentially a temporary permit. Board of Selectmen, we are in open session.
You've got to open a joint meeting.
That's what I'm about to do. Okay, thank you. The Board of Selectmen are in open session. I'd like to, the assessors, you have to call your meeting to order.
Mr.
We'll call our
Chairman,
meeting.
you have to do a open of the joint session by roll call.
Is that
And
okay?
then they have to do it by roll call.
Is there a motion to open this joint meeting of the Board of Assessors and the Board of Selectmen?
I make so motion. Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Mr. Soers?
So
Mr.
Matt Lopes?
Mr. Gasper?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Hinckley, and I'm a yes. And so then you've got to open your meeting.
Motion to open the assessors meeting.
I second that.
All in favor?
Roll call, please.
Roll call.
Ontario Soers? Matt Lopes?
Matt Lopes, you're not, yeah, that's.
Yeah, another board member.
We're going to do ours as well, but we're already open, right?
You already did your roll
So
call.
we're good, okay. All right, we have 2 candidates before us this evening. Gentlemen, from my perspective, look, this is your board, so I'll rely on you to conduct the interviews and take it in that direction.
Robert Brown? How you doing, Rob?
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
I did put in my letter for your consideration because I have, as you know, been an assessor in the past. Always willing to help out the town in any way I can. I do realize it's a temporary position and you do have to get your signatures and the people's support come next election. I'm willing to do that as well. Having been an assessor in the past, I am already certified, so you don't have to worry about any of that.
That stays valid.
As far as I know, it stays valid forever. Nobody's ever done it twice, as far as I know. So
So you've done, how many years you do for?
one term, one full term.
Did Mike Chopper leave and come back? No. I think he
I
did.
don't think he did as an
Thought he
assessor.
did, but no.
He left the selectmen and came back.
Yeah.
But
What's our meeting days? We usually do it in our hours.
Tuesday nights.
Would that
Last-
conflict with
the last
the
Tuesday
other
of the
meetings?
I will make whatever meeting,
Was it Wednesday?
whenever we have it.
Wednesday.
You know,
Last Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
as you know, I'm also on the Board of Appeals here in town and the Housing Authority, so we'll make it work and I'll be there when you need me.
None of them conflict with this, it's elected in position and versus
Correct.
appointed in. I mean, there's not a lot of questions, I guess, from us to you, as we all kind of really know you,
Yeah,
what's
no,
going on.
I've served before, I'm willing to serve again, and
Okay.
that's it. Thanks for your consideration.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Mr. Michael Peckham? How you doing?
I've never done this before, but I'm interested in learning, getting whatever certifications I need to do. I'd
You live
like
in
to-
town and all, you live in town, right?
Yes, I've been a resident for 21 years,
Mhm.
and I've been always interested in maybe doing something with the community, and
Yep.
this seemed like maybe an opportunity.
What do you do for a living now?
I work for a cranberry company in Wareham.
And your hours are flexible?
Yeah. So making any meetings isn't a big deal for me, and I don't live that far from here, so that's about it.
Have you ever done any other boards in town?
No, I haven't. This would be the first one. Like I said, I've been interested in getting involved in the community. I haven't really done anything yet, but
Have you had any background in like banking or any kind of financial, or,
not really.
numbers kind of thing, if you will, no?
Yeah, not really.
And I'm not putting you on a spot, I'm just asking,
No.
we're gonna ask a question, I'm just kind of curious to know what your
Yeah.
background is.
Not really. I've pretty much been a mechanic my whole
Just trying to
life.
get involved with town and stuff.
Yeah,
Understandable.
I heard there was an opening. And I
Yeah.
said, well,
No, that's good, I mean,
look into it.
there's always different ways of looking at the job, so, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I understand that there's, I guess, a few courses you have to take and
Yeah.
get certified and everything.
And they're not arduous, but it's a weekend sometimes here and there, it's-
And I do realize also that this is a temporary position for now, and
Well, the way things are going, temporary is permanent these days,
yeah, and so I just figured I'd give it a try.
Yeah,
No?
You know,
So that's
see
how
if
we
I
do it.
fit, then
that's good. No, that's great.
You know,
Good to have
job-
interest in the town, economics and politics and all this, that's great.
yeah, that's pretty much my story, I guess.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
All right. So I don't know, do we have any other questions we need to ask the selectmen, or I guess we can just, do we have to
How's
address
this-
Kelly?
how's
as,
this-
you know,
As a candidate, you can advance, you could take through a motion to advance one candidate.
you want us
You
to
can
do
do
that
both if
tonight?
you
We don't
want,
need to
right?
do a discussion in our own
Yeah,
meetings,
so
or?
if you do a motion to appoint Mr. Peckham, right, it'd be a second, there'd be discussion, and then you do a vote, and then.
So we'll do that now, not in our own private meeting as a, yeah. okay.
No, I think we gotta do that now, and
Okay.
then be a motion to appoint Mr. Brown.
So collaboratively, I guess, between us and you guys, my only concern is, I'm assuming your husband and wife?
What?
No, I thought you were,
Father-in-law.
I'm sorry, I thought you were father. That's what I meant, you're not, I'm sorry, not husband and wife, I'm sorry, I'm messed up with it. You're a family, you're, yeah,
That's okay.
yeah.
We're still.
Just trying to put all this stuff in my head that I was thinking about this, okay. But you're relative, yeah, all right, so father-in-law?
Father-in-law,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. All right, I was just concerned about the family, the connective thing with that, with being in, I don't know how much traction that holds, as far as conflict of interest with family members and all, but that was my only, sorry, used the wrong,
I mean, for what it's
delineation.
worth. I mean, I think Mr. Peckham's a great guy, and I commend you for,
Mhm.
wanting to come forward, but I think from an interim standpoint, to have somebody like Mr. Brown to be able to step in,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then, with the
Oh,
certifications, hit the ground running, I think that
Makes
makes
more
sense
sense,
for
yeah.
most, for the town right now. No
Familiarity
disrespect,
with the job and all, yeah, so.
And if he's interested, you can
Right, get run for office, and if it's not there, there's other opportunities in town to serve, we've got tons of openings in town.
Yeah. Well, you don't know unless you.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that you're coming forward with it, because we need a lot, we need other people to get involved, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, at this point, I'd like to officially nominate Mr. Robert Brown for the position of the Assessor's Office.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Soers?
Aye. Yep.
Aye. Mr. Gasper? Yes. Shankly, I'm a yes. Congratulations, Bob. Thank you, gentlemen. And Mr. Peckman, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Peckham, thank you very much.
Thank
Your
you.
interest. And,
Outstanding.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, go on the webpage, there's other committees that are open.
I will.
If you want to start getting your feelers out there for what's happening in town,
Yeah, there's plenty,
show
There'll be
your
plenty of
to
stuff.
any other boards and committees that we have open seats
Right.
on. And
So we need now a motion to adjourn
I'm in
Motion
the,
to adjourn.
Joint meeting,
All in favor?
in favor? Motion passes, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
guys.
Thank you.
I know in the interest of time this evening, gentlemen, how do you feel if we move the executive session
fine.
to the end of the agenda? We can move the other stuff up, and then we can do that in alignment with article item number 1 in new business. And so, we do have some issues that we would like to discuss publicly with our finance department. And I think to have this information and this backdrop as we now start going into our fall town meeting, I think is really helpful. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kelly if you can frame the issue, and then we have our finance team here to talk about currently what is taking place, and then I don't know if we have an immediate solution, but at least a roadmap, and this may be the start of a conversation that we can do a deeper dive on at a later date. So we at least want to at least get this out into the public domain. If you wouldn't mind just going to
Todd?
Are you over there?
I think
Okay,
we're
that's
gonna
fine.
sit
Tell
down.
Nick.
All right.
Hi, Carla. I know. Hi, Todd.
Good evening. How are you?
Can you?
Very good.
One second, Mr. Kelly, for those in the public who do not know our current finance team, we just ask that you go and introduce, if you could just go down the row and introduce yourself and what your function is in town. I think it's good for people to know who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Todd Hassett. I'm the interim town accountant. I've been serving the town since early May.
Right.
Marilyn Johnson, interim treasure collector. I've been here since the middle of July.
Carla Moreo, Assistant Treasurer Collector. I've been here since April, and I help the town with payroll and HR.
Nick Monticello, Assistant Town Accountant. I've been here for just about 2 years now.
Okay, great. Turn it over to Mr. Kelly, who will frame the issue and then lead the discussion, and we'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Chairman, as the team has said, we all came in other than Nick. Since February on, we went through town meeting, and then we went through some resignations of the town accountant and the treasurer collector. With the board's approval, I brought in Todd and Marilyn, who are experts in their fields, have been working in many communities, and we started to go through the finances of the town, and it turned out that there were multiple issues that came up, and some of them long-standing that have gone back 10 years or more. Other issues that had to be dealt with very quickly because we had DOR in here for meetings, and we were trying to make sure that everything that needed to be filed was filed and was in proper order. I think the town is very lucky having the team that they have. Carla came over from New Bedford. She's an expert in payroll. Nick has been here for, in other jobs, came into the assistant accountant job, and according to Todd, has been a star. So, and the four of them going through the town finances with me have really shined a light on what has been going on and what should have been going on. And I think we should start with the treasurer collector's office, and we can go over exactly what has been found and what has been done to rectify the problems and the impact.
First of all, cash hasn't been balanced since February. That's something should be done every month. That's where you find your errors, in oversight of maybe a deposit from the state came in that we didn't notice, get received notice on, and the money's in the bank, but it's not in the general ledger. So if you balance monthly, you can find all those transactions that have occurred. Sometimes you make a deposit, it might be, you know, the bank might have taken it for $1 more than you thought it was for, you know. There's little things that happen that go on, bounce checks and stuff, and if you don't reconcile monthly, then, you know, trying to go back, you know, 3, 4, 5 months later, it's just a mess. One of the things I found was there were a ton of unreconciled items that went back years, a long time. They should be, so if you find it 1 month, you correct it the next month. It shouldn't go on year to year to year to year to year. That's an issue that, you know, trying to balance gives you, you know, problems.
I ask a question, just what is the status of that situation right now? Is it working towards a resolution, or is there anything?
So, in order to get our DRR reports and stuff done, the only thing I felt I could do was take my bank statements as of June 30th, and whatever money they said we had in the bank is what we, you know,
Okay.
we try to reconcile to that number as best we can. But all these old transactions, some of them didn't have dates on them, some of them should have been taken care of the next month, so we've kind of set it aside, and we'll be
Okay.
going back to.
But you do have a plan moving forward?
Right,
that-
so going
okay.
forward, I'm taking my bank balances and moving forward with whatever comes in, whatever goes out, and ending with what my bank balance said and reconciling the differences.
So as we go through this tick list, you know, frame the issue, and then talk about where we are and what the
Right.
resolution is. So I think, I don't know if this gentleman, if you have any questions, but I feel relatively comfortable that you have a plan. It's hard to go
Right.
back and unwind history, but moving
I
forward.
redid the cash book
as long as
starting
you've
for
got something
September,
moving forward.
so it's all formulated in totals, you know, so it should work a little bit easier.
This September that we're in right now?
This is September, yes, I set
So
up a new.
we still have problems from,
July and August, I'm doing the same way I did June, you know, finding the differences between them, you know, once I did June, so going to July. I'm using those balances, moving as my beginning balance for July and ending with the ending balance in the bank for July and finding the differences. So, we're getting there.
So our plan, just as a follow-up, is to make sure the ledger and the treasurer's cash book variance doesn't change at the end of July and the end of August, that we've stopped the bleeding, if you will, and then we're gonna go back and try to, you know, work back.
reconcile the previous months.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. But we need to keep it
We
current.
need to go forward.
Is there a
Sure.
policies and, like, is there a standard operating procedure that you must do in order to do this, right? That, so any treasurer collector should be doing? And can
Everybody
we-
does things a little bit differently, but your bottom line is, you get a balance to your bank statement.
Right.
You
So
know.
I guess what I would ask is that, I think to help, because you're in an interim situation,
Mhm.
I think it would help with Ms. Moreo's development and professional growth, that as you're going through this process, if you would memorialize what you are doing
Mhm.
in order to get this squared away, so then I think as a town, we're all on the same page. It's not left up to the style of the next person or, you know, the teaching of the experience of the next person. That as a town, and as a finance department, we say, this is how we want it to look moving forward. Here's the punch list. This is the stuff that needs to be done. I don't know if that's an appropriate ask, or if you can get to as close to that as possible.
Mr. Chairman, in every town I've been in, the process they described is standard operating
Okay.
procedure.
Right, so the process is standard, everybody's way of doing that process is a little bit
All right,
different.
well, whatever it is, it
Right.
didn't seem like we had anything going on before you came
Yeah.
on board, so let's fix that, so moving
Right,
forward,
so
whoever
going-
steps in.
Some of this goes, some of what she describes goes back to 2018.
I have no
So-
doubt. Okay, next.
Okay,
Number
so,
two.
so I've been in various different towns, and it's always the way that I've always done it, just to make my books correct, is any type of payment that needs to be wired to any vendor
Yep.
has to come through our office first. So in other words, like school lunch, they pay meals tax. They have to go on the DOAB's website, put the information in, but they shouldn't make the payment. It should come to me, I make the payment, that's money coming out of my, well, not, the town's bank accounts that this position's responsible for. And then I would give it up to accounting for them to put it through on the warrant, so that they know the wire's been done, the correct amount's been wired, it's on the warrant, and it's clean. It's not, oh, I think the school did that, or the school should have done that, I don't do that, you know, it makes it messy, because there's times that they were done and they weren't done, and, you know, it's on the warrant, nobody realizes it was on the warrant, so it's just a little bit of housekeeping to keep things, you know, in a central location when money's coming in and out of the bank accounts.
Good. Number 3?
Number 3, the warrants. I've always, and I was talking to Carla, like, there doesn't seem to be, like, timeframes for, like, payroll comes in kind of willy-nilly. It's not everybody has to have payroll in by 10, so she can do what she needs to get done, so they can process the warrant and get it. It should be kind of more streamlined. It should be, you know, everybody should have a time frame. If you want to get paid, you get the payroll in on time, you know. And there's always, you know, schools, you know, hiring new people all the time. They need to get them on payroll. But generally, every day, weekly warrants should be a time frame. You get your payroll in, the warrants processed, you guys need to sign it, we need to get checks out. You know, there were times when it wasn't processed, the girls in the office are getting phone calls, where's my check, I didn't get my check, how come, you know, it has been mailed, well, it wasn't signed, or it wasn't processed yet. So it's just a lot of extra time on our side, because there's not these time frames put in place. It's not a big observation.
It is a big deal though, but we want to make sure that we get it right.
Process is important in this, Mr. Chairman, and Carla has sent out an email to departments setting up the timeframes.
Okay.
We are putting all of these processes in place.
Good. All right, so you've got, so I get my question I was going to ask regarding number 3 is if there's something, a communication has been sent out to the stakeholders, but a question for Mr. Kelly, for you, would you like a vote of the Board of Selectmen to give that some teeth, to make sure that people understand the importance of that? Even if it's ceremonial in nature, but I feel, gentlemen, that to get this thing squared away.
If you make a vote on a process, not a policy, but a
Okay.
process, then we have to come back to you to change that process.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, or if it has to be tweaked. I would prefer a votes on policies and staff
If
take
you want to
care
come
of the
back to us
process.
with a package or whatever it is, but I think the board needs to signal to our departments that we are all in on what you guys need to do to clean this up. And so again, if it's ceremonial, it's ceremonial, or this conversation is enough to carry that. But what's going on is we gotta
I
fix
think,
this.
you know, just, you know, Kyle just sent it with last week, last
Friday.
Friday.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes.
All right.
You know, if we have
Fair
an
enough.
issue, then maybe it could be more blanket
Okay.
that procedures have been put in place, follow them versus particular procedures so that it's not as nitty-gritty.
Fair enough. Yes.
On this subject matter, because I wrote on the side of it, simple solution, right? And I think you've already got the solution in place. It's pretty simple. The previous one, I wrote common sense. That's how simple that is. The reconciliation thing, I totally get it. I did it in my business. When do you want the Board of Selectmen to try to come in and sign? Because you said the deadline would be,
Well, do you
say,
guys-
Tuesdays, and then how long does it take for us to sign, for Carla to be able to go ahead and process checks and have the authorization to move that warrant forward?
Based
Or
on
Nick.
what I've experienced, I believe by Friday mornings would be, the vendor and withholdings warrant would be great. Is that how you feel for
Yeah.
for your warrant, for your payroll? Okay. So Friday mornings by like 10, so we can get it in the mail and it can, you know, get out there for the weekend. Because we usually get our warrants done on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So give us that time to get everything together, all the bills, and then Friday morning it should be in the selectman's office for signature. That would be great if we could get 2 signatures.
Okay.
That's Friday.
Okay, so Jamie and Lisa, if you can get, you know, when they're ready, put a text out alert, warrants are ready to go, and we'll get in here and take care of it.
And a lot of times you have them sometimes ready beforehand too, so. I mean,
Yeah,
I can
whenever
always
they're ready.
start sending more
Just
texts.
let us know.
Yeah,
Saying-
for instance, if they come in the day before, because I'm bouncing all over the city, so sometimes I might be a little later than 10. But if they show up Thursday, I can stop by on my way home too and sign, so.
I would say
whatever's-
Friday the 10th,
Yeah.
by 10 would be the latest
Okay.
for that
Okay.
week's
If they're
warrants.
in the office, she'll let us know, and I can show up at any time and make that happen. Whatever's easier for you guys.
Thank you.
As soon as you let us know.
She could just do that. I'm with the chairman on that. We need to know because we're not mind readers and maybe Friday, him and I aren't around, but we're here on Thursday night or whatever. So if we get that thing, it's ready to go. I can pop in on Thursday night. I don't need anybody here to show me where to sign. I've been doing it for a while. But I want to make sure that it's all set and ready to go so you ain't getting phone calls and yelling at and everything else. Where's my check and things of that nature.
You got enough on your plate.
All right. Item number 4.
Okay, there's there's been a lot more requirements in the assistant treasurer type position, and being assistant treasurer and collector plus HR is a lot. I'm just surprised there isn't like either another full-time person rather than a part-time person in there. You have a part-time person and a senior clerk and then assistant treasurer collector. There's like nobody in there that can help out with that other stuff that needs to be done. And, you know, Karen's great, she does a great job, you know, but she does what she does, you know, it's that, but there's things that have been done. It seems like a lot of it was on the treasurer collector, because I've been in other towns and it's like, oh, he does that, and they said, you do that. I'm like, really? You know, I'm used to having staff to do like commitments and subsequent taxes and sending out letters for tax title, all that kind of stuff that I think, I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I have a feeling it's been gone by the wayside, and there's timeframes that you have to get. If a person hasn't paid their taxes and we haven't notified them to put a lien on their property, we have 3 years to do that, or we could lose out on those tax dollars. So if that stuff's not done, and you know, I know there's been a lot of adjustments and stuff, but normally an assistant does that stuff. But where you've got HR plus payroll in assistant treasurer collector position, there's usually another staff person on the collector side. Karen's kind of on the treasurer side. There's no staff on the collector side to do that type of stuff. So if maybe in cross-training and, you know, maybe moving some stuff around in the positions, that they could do that, I'm not sure. I just see that that's a part that's a little bit on the lacking side.
All right, gentlemen, I'd like to offer this up as a possibility with your approval that you, the team, work with Mr. Kelly and report back to us with a potential solution.
Okay.
Right? So, thank you. Gentlemen, is that appropriate? For consideration, doesn't mean we're gonna implement it,
Right.
doesn't mean we're gonna hire more people, but
It's
at
just
least.
more to be aware of the situation, you know, because, you know, I asked him like, well, that's not my job, and I'm like, okay, but,
Yep.
you know, there's nobody, you know, I can check.
It's
I
not
can
my
check.
job.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, if you've never done it,
Right.
it's not your job,
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't even understand the terminology of what the job actually is. So, you know, it was always done, you know, by somebody else, and that's gone. a
Or
little
not
bit-
done.
Or not, well, you know, I know 19 was done, so, you know, I'm hoping 20,
Okay.
21. It's just something that came up.
All right.
Right.
Mr. Kelly, I ask that you quarterback that and get back to us at a reasonable time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, number 5.
Number 5, we get those payroll hard copy notices. We pay for a system to allow that notice to be emailed to our employees, which would save paper and time in our office separating, giving them out, passing them on, mailing them out to those that need to be. It would just be simply emailed to everybody. And we pay for the service now anyway, and that just saves time in the office.
Yeah, I always found that kind of strange when we went to the direct payroll. But yeah, in the mailbox, you know, you get
You
that
get the
50
paper
cent stub that says this is not a check and you got 50 cents for the month.
Right, you're going
That's my
paperless, but you're still
payroll.
getting.
But it's kind of foolish that you didn't want to send me a check, but yet you send me this stub
That could equal a check.
that could just be the check. And I never got that, so I'm all for eliminating that.
What are you gonna do, what do you need?
Talk to the
Do it?
employees.
No, we
It's
just,
just, we're reporting to the board because most towns do use the employee self-serve portal.
Okay.
And there's a question at the end of the year if the tax documents go out in the mail. But that can be done, and that will still save us for all of the individual payroll documents.
Great.
And for anyone who hasn't been set up on our employee self-serve portal, they could just reach out to our office, and it's just a matter of giving us their email address, and I push the button, and they get it in their inbox and set up their account. And moving forward, every pay stub, every W-2, everything's there for forever, so.
Outstanding.
So if
And
you
it's
lose
what-
your W-2, you don't have to come back to us to get it, you can just print it out.
And it's what most municipalities do now.
We'll call it Operation 2022.
Yes, I like that.
That's what we're in now? Good, good. All right, number 6.
Number 6. The golf course spreadsheet that I've been getting every month, there's always issues, a little, you know, different things wrong. So I set up a new spreadsheet, and I'm hoping that I can get them to use it. This one, the totals don't total, it just doesn't match. So, you know, had to kind of recreate it every month with the weekly, the daily reports to get the correct numbers I need to balance.
Is it like common practice to be doing that on Excel spreadsheet, or is there like some point of sale system that
They
we're
have a point of
using
sale,
that
and then
generates reports?
they have a handwritten document they use, which really should be in Excel, so it totals for you.
Right.
And then, every now and then we get notice from the bank, like your deposit was short $20, or there was a credit card payment that wasn't put on
Okay.
this particular, you know, so you can go back in the spreadsheet and put it in. But the spreadsheet, it has beginning balances that are old, it has bottom line stuff on the bottom with formulas that have weird numbers in them. So I just wanted to clean it up, and I don't know who does what part of the sheet that
Right.
comes over to us. So I just wanted, you know, to maybe work with that person and say,
Yeah.
if I give you the Excel spreadsheet, because it's handwritten in pencil.
It's
hard to read the numbers.
It's insane. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's gotta be that when a transaction's taking place, unless we're using some type of antiquated point of sale system, there's gotta be at the end of the process, that if you wanna run reports, that we shouldn't, I just find it to be crazy that we're using Excel still, because garbage in, garbage out, right? Like, if you're putting the wrong stuff in the Excel spreadsheet, you're cranking out the wrong information. It should be like credit card swipe, cash, you know, like.
They get it, you know, so each daily has a cover sheet, and then it's like all the backup to it. And I've kind of worked out where the numbers come from, but sometimes they don't actually match the number this way. So I just wanted to work with somebody
Thank you, but I
to
think.
try to figure it out, to get it more
long-
streamlined.
Long term, it would just, you know, the golf course is gonna come here. I don't know, again, if there's a point of sale system, that's not your issue to solve. But maybe it's invoice cloud, there's gotta be somebody out
The
there.
point of sale system they've been using doesn't communicate easily with any of our accounting systems or invoice cloud. It's going to be a discussion for the
Okay.
future.
Good, thank you.
I mean, you can work with it, but I just, to clean it up a little
Yeah.
bit, just to
Yeah, I
make it
don't know.
work a little bit
For
easier.
the time being, if you can write it out with a pencil, you can punch it into Excel.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, that way it's cleaner, so if I'm not sitting there saying, is that a 9, or is it a, you know, a 7, you know, because it just, handwritten pencil documents, I just kind of.
We were talking about that.
We did call it Operation.
The system needs to be a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
Whether it's a credit card
Yeah.
transaction, a cash transaction. When I had my business, I had all my credit, when it would batch out at the end of the night, come in the next morning, because it would batch out in the middle of the night when I'm not there. You come in, you take all your credit card slips, you make sure the total equals what your batch report says, and you put it in, and then you put it into your, at that point, I was using QuickBooks.
Yep.
You just enter it in as either ATM or credit card payment, so you knew, and I can identify what that sum of money was in a credit card payment, so if there was a problem with that versus a cash one, you just go to your credit card book and you grab your old slips, you can go back, look at the history, see where the mistake was made, and I'm trying to fumble, figuring out, was it out of this pile of cash, or was it out of this pile of credit card slips? So it's just, there's a way better way to do it, and unfortunately, nobody's taken that leadership role to implement that system, and it should have been done, but we'll get it done.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
you're
start-
paying for Munis,
Right.
and you might as well use the system.
I was just gonna say, as a follow-up, circling back to Marilyn's first topic, this then further delays us attempting to reconcile cash, because she's having
Recreate
trouble
the whole
tying
thing.
to the bank.
Yep.
The deposits are different, so. it holds us up, and then that impacts the GL and our ability to report out.
All right, so that's the report of the treasurer collector's office. Anything else?
No,
How many, can I ask one question, so I can get this in my head to Marilyn? How long do you think that the reconciliation problem, because I know when you have a balance and you're trying to start off with a balance, kind of hard when you're looking in the rears and you have all these blank holes in your reconciliation that haven't been reconciled. It kind of blows my mind that somebody's not doing that every month, because as soon as your bank statement comes in, you would go into and reconcile your accounts.
Right.
And then whatever carries over would carry over. It should all equal out zero when you're done for the month. And anything that's not, that carries over, shows up on the next month, right? Even though it was done in the previous month, so you know that
right,
recording.
and it's identifying those. So, when you do the online payments, in all the banks are kind of the same. So if you make an online payment in cash, it might show up that day. But if you do it by credit card, it shows up like 2 days later.
Sure.
So you get to the end of the month, as early as like the 27th, it might not show up until the next
That's
month on the
correct.
1st. So you've got to identify those. So when you take, what the cash book, what we posted for receivables for the month, and then when I get that bank statement and I look and I say, okay, there's a difference, I got to find that difference. So there's a report that I can get out of one of the banks that will tell me exactly when, and I can try to back into that. So I'm getting there, but that was never done.
Yeah,
I
I get it.
because I had to have that report set up through this bank. So it's, sometimes, to say, oh, that's the reconcilable item for the month, it'll come next. But there could have been a bounce check in there. There could be other things in that difference that you've got to identify. So you identify, $3,500 as your deposits in transit from May to June. Then June, you've got to make sure that $3,000 came through. And if you don't, that's where you get to where
I get it.
you're not
I
where
get
you
it.
belong.
It could just be a nightmare.
It can be.
But to follow up on Mr. Gasper's question to begin with, he asked, how long has that non-reconciliation been going on?
So, from my understanding, February was balanced with you?
We have a document that suggests that, yes.
Okay. But in that document, I'm sure all these old transactions were listed, weren't taken care of.
We're not taking care of.
We're not taken care of. So, it's something, when we looked at it, I'm going, okay, deposit in transit from January of 2019 is still on this list. That just means you put the money in the bank, but it didn't, you went after 4 o'clock on the 30th, so it hits the next month. It shouldn't still be on a reconciled report. So I didn't know how good those numbers were. So we're gonna go back.
Okay.
Once we move forward and get comfortable, we'll go back.
It's a lot of work what you're doing.
Marilyn, Ms.
It's
Moreo,
interesting.
thank you. I think, while I was discouraged to see that we had 6 problems, I'm encouraged that we've got 6 solutions, potentially, right? That we got some actionable items. I guess one that's hanging out there is item number 3, is just to see how that works with getting the payroll in. And then number 4, you guys will come back with a recommendation on how to cross-train and make sure that office is moving forward. So thank you for your service, Ms. Moreo, thank you. Hang in there, don't go anywhere, all right? Next, Todd and Nick, your county.
Thank you. So I did provide the board with an outline of, just to show you some of the topical areas that I've been working with Nick on since starting in May. So I'll just go through them briefly, but certainly entertain any questions the board may have. As you see, it's a fairly long list. These are not all problems. These are just things that have either been corrected or dealt with at a later date than they should have been originally recorded. In starting, when I came, I reconciled the FY22 budget. That was one of the first things I did, and I noted that a number of things that the May of 2021 town meeting approved had never been recorded in the general ledger. So things like interfund transfers, the use of ambulance receipts to support a portion of the fire budget, for example. The establishment of a debt capital stabilization fund. The reserves that were voted for community preservation and approved when the tax rate was approved hadn't been recorded. The state assessments budget was incorrect. The revenue budgets for all of the operating funds, which is general, golf, water, sewer, and CPA, community preservation, had variances. We corrected all of those to tie back to the state-approved tax rate. In terms of the expense budgets, there were a handful of budgets that differed from what town meeting had approved. And you see, I provided you a short list of some of those. So those were all that was sort of my first effort in May, knowing that year end was staring us in the face, and I wanted to make sure if we had any shortfalls or concerns that might require transfers, that we had the right numbers. In terms of the ledger, there were some prior year article and encumbrance balances that were detailed in one way, but the summary on the balance sheet in some cases was different. We reconciled all of that. And we've actually implemented a new way to deal with encumbrances going forward that's much more clear for both the departments and for accounting and finance. We talked about cash earlier. That's probably, the thing I preach the most to the communities I work with is a local government's main assets are liquid, cash and receivables. Certainly we have capital assets, we have roads and buildings, but the most risk is in this area where things are liquid. So it's important to be timely about reconciling both cash and receivables. So I'm pleased to tell the board that all of the receivables we did fully reconcile through June 30th, and they all do reconcile. Taxes, excises, betterments, the user charges for water and sewer. We did have some issues with the veterans, and as you probably know, we file a monthly report with the Commonwealth based on our claims, and 75 cents on the dollar is reimbursed to the town the following fiscal year through the cherry sheet, Veterans Benefit Cherry Sheet. So the receivable on the ledger had no semblance to what we should have expected to receive, and what we did receive in '22. So we've got that fully corrected. Nick now understands how that will go and be monitored going forward. The state reimburses us quarterly, but it's always a year behind. And if for some reason there was a veteran's claim that was ineligible, then that reimbursement may come in at a lesser amount. The one piece of receivables that we're introducing that really wasn't maintained on the ledger, it relates to police details, and that we're just starting to work with the police department on. Because as you know, that's the type of account where we pay the officer after the detail is worked, then subsequently bill the third party that the detail was done for, Eversource, contractor, what have you. And so that account by nature has a deficit balance because we pay the officer after the work is performed and at a later date collect and get reimbursed to bring that account up to zero. So during the year, it's not a major issue. At year end, it does have an implication on how much free cash is certified. So to the extent we can do better in this area, that will yield a little better free cash result because it is held, any deficit is held back from what's certified to be available for town meeting use. Yes, sir.
That only takes place in the last year of the last month of the fiscal year, so the June month is where you would be impeded by that?
Yes, and what we're allowed to do is monitor what's collected over the summer and report that back. So when we filed the balance sheet, we reported what we had collected through August subsequently, but there was still a deficit as of year end.
Is that a pre-funded account? Do you know?
No, it's not a pre-funded account.
Because some towns will put money in, like 5,000-10,000 to offset that.
So,
I thought, no, it's just, we don't have a detailed, we
No.
have just
It's an
an
agency, it's
exploded
considered an-
overtime budget that's there, and
Right.
But should only overlap into the new fiscal year as far as
That's
taking away
right.
from free cash is the month of June, because you don't have anything to
That's
be able to
right.
bill out to and have enough time to collect that money
Correct.
back in.
That's right.
So it's really the June month, say if there's $50,000.
Yeah, by the end of August, we should have collected that 50,000.
Correct, but that would be actual deficit that would be taken away
Yes.
from the DOR certifying free cash.
That's right.
That smaller amount and not the cumulative amount
Correct.
of what's going on.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. And so we'll be implementing a monthly reconciliation with the police department. That's new, between finance and police going forward.
Excellent.
I mentioned betterments. So again, those receivables are fully reconciled. What I did discover is that the debt service related to those betterment receipts has never been appropriated by town meeting. It's simply been paid out of the fund from the receipts from the homeowners or the properties that were bettered. So you'll notice on the fall town meeting warrant, we do have an article asking to establish a debt budget for these betterments, specifically funding coming from betterment receipts from. So there's no tax impact, but it's a town general obligation bond, and it does need to have a town meeting appropriation.
I was curious, when we looked at the articles, I seen that number, it's a big number.
It's a big number.
300 and
Yes, sir.
change.
It's in it, yeah.
And I seen that number and I said, what the hell is this? We haven't
Yeah,
done
and it's
this.
been going on for years.
We've had a betterment
Yes,
program
sir.
in place for
Long
quite
time.
some time
Yes.
now, so it's kind of blew my mind when I seen that number. I was very,
Right. And we
Yes.
did vet that with the Department of Revenue. Jamie mentioned they've been out twice to speak with us and just feel comfortable that things are under control. And we did toss that by them just to make sure, and they said absolutely, any debt the town issues should be, the payments should be appropriated by town meeting. The funding will be from the betterment repayments from the folks that were bettered.
interesting.
You're on the overlay?
And then, yeah, so again, when the tax rate was approved, which probably was December of '21, at that time, the overlay is established, the assessor's provision for abatements and exemptions, and that had never been recorded in the ledger, so
So
we
we're good right now,
recorded
right?
that. That's
Good.
all set going forward. We've actually already drafted the recap sheet for '23, we'll finalize it after the October town meeting.
Okay.
And we'll be ready for your classification hearing whenever the assessors have values and new growth certified.
Okay.
But that'll be ready, within the week of the October town meeting.
Awesome.
The school roof project, which is, as you know, well along now, the way the proceeds, the temporary borrowing proceeds and the premium on those borrowings was recorded, was incorrect. We've sorted that out, and you'll notice again on the fall town meeting, we've got an Article 2, I believe it is, which is the operating budget corrections or amendments, has a line for debt service for the roof. There was no debt provision for the interest payment for this note for the roof in the '23 budget approved back in May. But there was 15,000 and change received in a premium, so that we will use, we're asking town meeting to transfer that to cover a portion of the 74,000 that's owed in interest late May. I think it's May 26th or 7th next year when the note comes due.
Mr. Chairman, if you remember when we were doing the budget, the school business manager presented the operating budget, and then we had to go back in for the debt, the capital debt, and so this was something that we should have caught, but we were looking for the larger debt at that point and didn't catch this one, but
Okay.
that's why we're asking for a town meeting to fix that.
All right.
It was something that we should have caught.
so that, the school roof, that's being done
Yes,
currently right now,
yes,
right?
yes.
project that I think when we discussed it back in the day, and we're paying for it out of the solar revenue fund.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way for, instead of taking it from taxation, we can take from the solar revenue fund to pay that
We
interest, so
certainly-
that we just keep it clean and off the books, so it never comes from taxation? And we-
Certainly could, through the
Okay.
motion of town meeting, sure. Or we can still amend the warrant, absolutely, sure.
If we have money available in the solar revenue
We
fund,
do.
so that all the money
Yes,
for
sir,
the school
there's
roof, instead of
adequate
coming from
funds.
taxation.
Sure.
We're doing it from the solar revenue fund, and we're drawing out that, because I believe and I don't know if you were brought up to speed on it, was a 15-year plan
Yep.
for about $1.3 million for our portion, because MSBA was taking care of the other
Correct.
50%.
Yep.
And we were gonna finance that on 15 years, roughly. I think it was the borrow was 2.5%, somewhere around there, if that's
Yeah,
where we were.
maybe a
It
little
might be a little
higher
bit
now.
higher
Yeah,
now, because the
yeah.
Fed's doing what it's doing.
Yep.
And it came out to roughly like an $83,000 a year payment, and we could take that instead of
We can
doing
absolutely do that, sure.
debt exclusion and raising everybody's taxes. We were creative, the board was creative in saying we're gonna use the solar revenue fund and not go up on people's taxes.
Mhm.
And that's where that money was coming from, so.
Sure. Yeah, the way we've got it currently proposed is, there are some reductions in the budgets that you'll see in that article, and so the net impact across all of those budget changes for the general fund is maybe $26,000. So we felt with the reductions, we could offset the debt payment for this year for the roof, but certainly if the board's preference is to not do that, we can, lower taxation.
Because you got something else on there that's a bigger hit.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ledger, the
Correct.
$136,000.
Yes.
That's the nail,
Yes, so
that's
we're
the nail in
using
the
that
coffin
to
on
sort of
that.
offset the debt and to,
Todd,
so I think for this year, we may be kind of neutral in terms of the tax impact.
it's
but-
the solar fund at, is it 146, 150,000 now?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, it may be actually a little higher than that. I don't have that with me, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Police station.
Yeah, so the police station project, which is completed, I believe we do also have an article proposed for town meeting to rescind a couple of debts balances. So there are authorizations out there that we don't need to borrow the funds. So we'll ask town meeting to approve rescinding those balances. But as that project was managed through the years, all of the investment earnings on those proceeds were credited to the capital project, and those investment earnings should have been credited, those are general fund revenue. So I found in 3 different funds this occurrence where interest was not statutorily required to go to a particular purpose. It should be general fund revenue, part of our local receipts. So that gave us sort of a one-time shot improvement to the general fund. Similar with the betterment funds.
Payroll.
So there were a number of payroll withholding accounts, and just to try to boil this down, for a health insurance withholding for town employees and retirees, there were 4 or 5 general ledger accounts, not one. Similar for life insurance and dental. So we went back through, there were free cash reductions last year because of these withholding account variances, if you will, where some withholding accounts appeared to be in a deficit position, when in actuality they were not. It was just, they were kind of mixed up, if you will. So Nick and I have gone through and chased the few posting errors that went back to maybe 2019. That's all been corrected and streamlined, and we have a better process in terms of posting the receipts, the withholdings, the receipts from retirees going forward. So it'll be a little cleaner in that area. I've done a fair amount of work with the school department, particularly early on over the summer, assisting them with their fiscal '22 grants. As you know, they had a change in business manager as well as we've had changes in finance. And so been working closely with the new business manager who started a few weeks ago The superintendent did have me on the search committee, or the interview committee, to help represent the town, which was a good process, and we're starting a really good working relationship with the business office. There were grant drawdowns that we hustled through July, June and July, to make sure they were in place, because otherwise we would have had on paper deficits in certain grants as of June 30th, and that again would have adversely affected our certified free cash. So we took care of all of that through June and July drawdowns of the various federal grants. The golf, golf is a little challenging, as Marilyn mentioned. It is on the ledger side too, and we're sort of working through a handful of those things. And we've made sure the golf debt is properly recorded. Not a big deal, but just wanted the board to know that was another thing we had worked on. I did prepare the statement of indebtedness for FY22, as our outgoing treasurer, who left June 30th, had never done one, so we did get that filed June 30th on behalf of the town. And then lastly, this is just more of an ongoing possible potential future project. The town's accounting system was set up in an awkward way. It's awkward to work with. We have 243 individual funds. So that means, getting back to Marilyn's number one item, we have 243 cash accounts in the general ledger that, for a variety of purposes, grants, gifts, projects, trusts. And typically a town this size would maintain probably between 24 and 30 funds. So we've piloted, we're working with the school department to pilot their FY23 federal grants in a single fund, whereas if they had 8 grants, previously there would be 8 funds. And there's no reason to do that. And it just makes it, again, more arduous in accounting. So there are a number of issues.
Opening up a new bank account, right?
Yeah, and this is really sort of the core or the backbone of the accounting system, is the chart of accounts. And it's, in my view, and already the new school business manager, I think, concurs, it really needs some serious rehab. That's a project, and we need to implement better budgetary controls that don't exist the way it's currently set up. So that's quick, not that quick, but that's some of the things that Nick and I have been working on in the last few months. The backside, I just listed for the board some of the reports that we've filed during my brief tenure. And as you'll see, and when there were reports that had due dates, I noted that for you just to show you that we filed everything, if not on time, early. And in some cases, some of these reports, it's the earliest you'll find they've ever been filed in Acushnet. So we've provided all the town costs to the school department for their Department of Ed end of year report, which is due the end of September. And as I say, we've already drafted the tax recap other than assessed values. And what we're going to be embarking on shortly is an update to our post-employment benefit actuarial valuation. We'll be working with the actuary, which will involve Marilyn's office as well. And just today, we received the fiscal 21 capital assets final file from the audit firm Melanson. So we'll be updating that for FY22. That just came in this morning. And Schedule A has been filed, which is our report of all revenues and expenditures by all our funds. That's due November 30th. That was filed a week ago. And so we should be getting, it's already been reviewed by DOR. We expect to get approval this week. And I do anticipate certified free cash and certified retained earnings for the 2 enterprise funds will come through this week as well.
So you just said something that was, I think, really important, in my opinion. Maybe if I'm wrong,
Sure.
please stand up, correct me, but I think what's disappointing in hearing this presentation is not so much personnel. I mean, look, people work hard, they try hard, they do the best they can. But the audit reports, and I don't know who the heck we've been using for an auditor, to me, that's the problem. Because we rely on the auditors and the management letters to come in and provide us a roadmap on how to clean things up and fix things.
Right.
And so, I know Jamie's looking at an RFP for an audit firm.
Yes.
I think that is job number one.
Yes.
Actually,
Somebody.
Mr. Chairman, I had a discussion with the auditors this week, and they are going to finish the single audit, and we have come to an agreement to part ways.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we got the 21 draft, I think, in August, and I was after them in May to send us a copy. We got their proposed adjustments in August, to which I responded, it's too late, we've already been through everything, we've made all the corrections we need to make.
I mean,
Didn't even open the file.
the auditors, they're our backstop.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
Yep. And taxpayers spend roughly $30,000 a year for that
Yes.
audit, and you know what we got for that, right? I think we just heard it.
We got it ready. Yeah, we got
So
some pages
it's
ahead.
extremely disappointing. From my perspective, I couldn't agree with the chairman more. They're supposed to be the back checkers of what's going on, and if they can't figure out some of the stuff that you have, Marilyn, have caught, it's extremely disappointing for somebody like me, so.
Thank you to you four, Todd, Marilyn, Maria, Nick, thank you very much. As interims, we'd ask that you hang in there as long as you can without impeding on your retirement plans or family plans. I think the folks to your right, I'm hoping there's a future finance department, but we gotta help them get to that level, and the longer you can stay in the game for us, I think we got a shot at that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to just thank Marilyn and Todd for coming in as interims, and doing what you've done for the town of Acushnet and the taxpayers, and helping out Carla and Nick, informing them and really providing some mentorship for them to succeed better at their position instead of following suit with the current errors that were being made. I think that's the most important part, is to educate them on where the mistakes were made. I think they got it. They're both extremely intelligent individuals, so I know that they have it, and it's burned in their brain, and they know what to look for, so that's awesome. And Marilyn, I know that you have just recently retired, so thank you for everything you've brought and come to the town of Acushnet to do for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Kelly for identifying them.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you all, I appreciate it.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, Todd and Nick are going to be here to talk about the warrant.
Okay.
But I think Marilyn and Carla are all.
Have a nice night.
Thank you.
So
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
if it's all right with you, I know we have the DPW technically up on the docket, but we've got CPC articles, and there's a lot of people who are here for that. If we could do, I don't think it's the intention of the board tonight to vote up or down on these things. We can just do a pre-read. We can go through the articles. I'm not trying to go through it quickly to not be thorough, but we can just, there are some things that are pretty self-evident. But if there's questions, as the saying is, if we're asking you what time it is, we don't need to know how to build a watch, right? So we can move it going, get things moving in the right direction. Greatly appreciate it. Mr. Kelly, do you want to preside over this, or I can?
On the warrant?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? Well, first of all,
Why don't you just jump right to the CPC like you said, Mr. Chairman?
well, I would just like to briefly note that there is a dedication page in the warrant, and you're going to be dealing with it later, but the town of Acushnet wishes to recognize and honor the dedication and commitment of Gerard A. Bergeron for 50 years of service to the Acushnet Fire Department, the Emergency Medical Service, the Emergency Management Agency, the Acushnet School Committee, and the town of Acushnet.
Right. Well placed.
And I would ask that the board approve that dedication page in the warrant.
Right. So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then getting to the substantive matters, the first article is a typical payment of prior year bills.
All right, $4,000. There's no question. Again, we're not going to vote on anything. If any board member has a question, just ask for a hold, and then we can, I guess, go back to it.
We'll just vote on it some other times.
Yeah, it's just a pre-read tonight.
So this is fairly typical in all communities. You get some bills that come in after the fact, and you have to present them to the town meeting for approval to pay.
So that's what Article 1. Article 1.
All right. Article 2, I think Todd started on it. There is, the first item is for the select board, it's for contractual obligations. It's the difference between what the board voted after town meeting on my contract and what we had originally budgeted. Finance and treasurer collectors are recruitment adjustments. They are the $5,000 that the board told me to add to the advertisement and the positions. As far as the assessor's salary adjustment, that should be put on hold because of the issue with the union certification. You cannot change working conditions or salaries while that's pending.
Okay.
The Public Works has requested $25,000 addition in gasoline, diesel fuel. And I think Todd can explain the water reduction.
So the town meeting in May approved a budget for the water operation that we've, after some work with the Public Works and internally, we've determined the budget was set too high. So and we're not in a position, based on the way town meeting voted in May, that we could defend the revenue to support that without an enormous or a large increase in the rates.
Okay.
So we're asking town meeting to reduce the overall water budget by $70,000, and I know the board will be also considering a rate increase. So in combination, we'll be in a position to defend when we go to set the tax rate, the estimated water revenue.
Okay.
It looks like perhaps the budget was based on FY21 actuals, which was during COVID, when all communities, everyone was at home and there was a lot more water consumption, if you will. And the consumption did come down in '22.
Okay, so the budget on, Ms. Silva's here, so I don't want to speak too much out because we're gonna be talking rates, but just to hit on what Todd's talking about, the budget was increased by $200,000 or better for water bills paid to the city of New Bedford, and we didn't hit that watermark, unintended. So at some point, when you look at, we've actually had a decrease, a dramatic decrease in what water we've sold. So your fixed costs have to make up that difference from what you bought and what you're selling and cover your fixed costs. So the only way to cover that deficit is to reduce the budget, so you don't end up with a reoccurring deficit the following year.
Okay. Article number 3.
The Acushnet Public Schools expense school choice to be paid from a state assessments, $136,788.
Hold.
This was, there was an item in the school budget for that, and the school, there was an item on the assessment sheet for that. So in effect, it was double counted on the tax rate, and it's been that way for at least 10 years.
So That's the one I want to put the nail in the coffin for all those people at home. We've been double taxed for over a decade on $136,000. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Just so everybody at home understands what's going on.
Correct.
In over 10 years, that 136 comes out to about $1.4 million, correct?
It's between.
Compounded.
Well, 10 years ago, it was approximately 90,000, I believe, and that's not compounded. Yep.
So I have an exhibit, to your point, Kevin.
Yeah.
So this goes back to FY '12. And what you see is, it was budgeted when the tax rate was set through the state and county assessments and charges, which don't go through town meeting. They're added, working with DOR when the tax rate is set. And the budget and actuals that were in the Acushnet Public Schools budget. So we budgeted twice, we expended once. And you'll notice in FY '22, the expense is in the assessments. So that's when I showed up and said, it's not a school department expense, it's a state assessment expense. So going forward, we'll raise it like the town was every year on the tax rate as an assessment. And we don't need those funds in the Acushnet Public Schools budget. And getting back to my earlier discussion, then that allows us to provide the funding for the interest payment for the roof project and the additional outplacement costs for students that will be serviced out of district at collaboratives. So you see there's 3 lines together, and if we sort of net them, that's what we're talking.
You remember that during budget times, we had to reduce by 150,000, and the town reduced by 75,000, and we went to the schools, and they reduced by 75,000. And because this has been discovered, we can restore that 75,000 to the budget, and we can take care of all the other problems. But this shows the value of that finance team you have in front of you, Mr. Chairman. It shows that there were issues that were not paid attention to, not in the near past, but going back to 2012 and probably beyond.
My question was going to be is how do we get it back to the taxpayers?
In the past, it went through.
Take it off the assessments. Lower the tax rate.
It went through the, we hope it went through the system and then back to the town in free cash.
Right, that's what would have happened.
Going forward, we have to make sure that that mistake is never done again.
It's a slaughter rate. That's shameful.
Well, it's now been discovered and it'll be rectified.
No, I understand, it's nice that it's cleaned up, it's just, you double taxed.
Right.
For over a decade.
Well, you've also got the answer then for the 75,000 that is being credited back to the schools. The debt service, we talked about, the reduction in veterans, and then there's a $40,000 for a turnout gear for the fire department put in. And that should rectify the issues with the budget that was passed in May. Now that we've gone through the books and we've actually seen what's there. And I apologize to the board for the fact that professionally, it took this long for us to come through it, but we did not know that we would be going back more than 10 years.
Well, I'll say this, I think we did it in record time. Thank you, Todd.
My pleasure. Sure.
I don't know if that would have happened if we didn't have somebody like Todd in that accountant's office. So we've had numerous town accountants, finance directors over this time frame when this was happening. And shame on all of them, because it should have been caught earlier. That should have never been something that was allowed to happen, especially not to the taxpayers, because it is double taxation,
Yes, it
and we're
is.
not getting it back.
Yes.
That's a problem in my eyes.
And it shows the value of having trained, qualified, and certified professionals.
Okay, thank you. All right. Article 3.
This is cleaning up some unneeded, off-the-books loan authorizations that before you go out for a bond on the school roof, if you clean this up, it will make sure that the interest rate is the lowest possible that we can get in this economy.
All right, number 4.
Article 4 is the betterment that Todd talked about earlier. Article 5 is the sewer enterprise fund, to continue with the I&I investigation program. Article 6 is the golf course. Is someone from the golf course
It's here.
can explain it.
Looks, the explanation is, the article is presented by the Golf Management Committee to continue the capital repair projects for the upkeep of the course and the repairs of the irrigation system.
It's gone from 150 to 300, and I think they can explain what they want.
Could you?
We have plenty of projects that we need to put forth, but a lot of those projects will require us making a commitment either through RFP or something. And with the golf industry the way it is, all the professionals are loaded with work, so we need the funding available so that we can put forth the request and have the money available. Obviously, those projects will all come before the Board of Selectmen.
Is it in this 300, 150's already been appropriated, or is this an
No,
additional
no.
300?
Additional is 300.
Have you already spent the other 150? Well, the golf
No,
committee?
no, we have not.
So there's
spent
300 on top of that, so it's almost $500,000 you're looking at spending?
No,
No, it's 300,000.
So 150, and then it looks like they're asking, initially came in at 150.
This says 300,000 for the purpose of various capital equipment and replacement of projects, but you already have 150 from a previous article that I
no,
thought.
we submitted that article for the spring town meeting, and it got dropped. So
When they originally
No.
submitted, Kevin, it was 150, but it got dropped. So
Oh,
fast
so
forward
it's
6 months
one and a
later,
half.
it's 150 in addition to the
So we
150.
reviewed it, and with the lead team time concerns we had, we suggest that we bump it up so that there is funding available if we need to make a move. It's a timing issue. Can you spend 300,000? In my estimation, between the fall town meeting and the spring town meeting, no. But you need the funding to make the commitment to lock vendors in time-wise to get the work done.
All right. We'll take that out, right? Thank you. Right, so it's to stay in line with what we're doing. If anybody has, can look for additional information. Article number 7?
Article 7 is, we are repurposing a number of articles that are not needed but had money in it to fund the technology of that is in relation to the fiber optic grant we got for $250,000. That is to string the wires, the grant is. This will allow us to have the equipment in the buildings to actually use the fiber optics, whether it's replacing phone systems, computer adaption. I think if Nick wants to come out, he can explain it more.
Man of many talents.
our IT director and assistant accountant, Mr. Chairman.
So yeah, the 80,000 would be to help supplement the, aside from like the grant running the fiber up to all the locations, we still need like network switches, we need a decent setup at almost every town building in order for the fiber to be effective at the locations, especially access points and stuff like that. And just in general, what's ever left over, I can, repurpose, and we'll be able to do, upgrade the phone systems. Council on Aging's gonna need phones, library's gonna need phones, because it's all gonna be as if every building is operating out of town hall now. So there's a lot that goes into, the
So the
storm.
250 that you got on that grant, which congratulations, great work. That's the string wires from all of our town buildings, meaning library,
Yep, there's like,
police, fire,
Mhm.
council on aging, town hall.
yep,
Okay.
yeah, just.
I didn't know if it was just like from here to there.
No, yeah, so it's-
It's an all out of money for wire.
Yeah, so the Open Cape, who provides the fiber, like internet, like Comcast,
Yeah.
they're over on, over in Fairhaven on Allen the Rail, whatever. So yeah, it would be running over there up to Town Hall, which would be the main hub, and then they'd hit all the other town building locations.
So that's a lot of mileage and cable.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Nick told me that the town actually has a reserve spot on all the poles that it can run its own wire.
Yeah, as long as it's not for profit, which is what this project is, we're allowed to, piggyback off of all the telephone poles. Which is why people.
Will there be a reduction in internet costs then, if we're going to our own fiber optic? Is that what we're
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
We're going
'cause
to our
basi-
own fiber optic for internet, right?
Yep.
In a secured line where nobody else can tap into.
Yeah.
So would there be any kind of cost savings on the other side of it once it's all
Yeah,
installed?
all the town buildings can get rid of their phone and internet, and, everything from there. Because like I said, it'd be like, instead of each building buying internet from Comcast,
Mhm.
the town hall's buying internet from Open Cape, and it's, feeding into all the buildings.
Right. Interesting.
And that includes the schools as well as the town.
Oh, the wires do all go into the schools?
Yeah,
So we
we're
can
having
connect
one-
the two schools to each other too, is everybody will be? right
Yeah,
up
the
there?
schools currently are connected to each other, and they have their own direct fiber line, because of something to do with like school grants. But with the fiber grant for the town, we're dropping in locations to each of the buildings, so that we could at least tie back in on the phone systems too, at least, so we don't,
Excellent.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Nick.
And we're doing it by using money from articles that we don't need anymore.
Very good. All right, this is the
The CPC.
CPC stuff, and we have a lot of folks who are here for that.
I will quickly start, Mr. Chairman, in that I have requested from, well, first off, the CPC budget is a very large budget, and as such, we are, let me grab my file. CPC, the number of files here. We have the balance, $58,083 in the reserve for open space, $66,918 in the reserve for historic preservation, and $65,513 in the reserve for community housing. And we have $569,670 in the undesignated fund balance. The total is $760,184.
Okay.
And I am asking for, and I'm going to put this all together, $12,000 from the administrative budget, which you're advised to spend money from the administrative expenses, historic resources, community housing, and open space reserve. I'm asking for $12,000 for administrative, $25,000 for community housing, $25,000 from open space, and that is a total of $62,000. The town is mandated to have an open space plan, a housing plan, a CPC plan, and all of those can be part of your master plan. Your master plan is terribly out of date. Your CPC plan doesn't exist. Your open space plan is terribly out of date, and your housing plan is about to go out of date. So I'm asking that we use these funds as well as the 40 hours of Serpent assistance to start this process, start the community outreach, start the surveys, and get this process done.
Any questions about that? There are none?
Probably on the background.
Right. There are none?
I'm asking also for $4,570 from open space. When the soccer field irrigation was done, you approved $25,000. I found out that the prior town administration spent $29,570 on the project, which was an overrun of $4,570. It's money that should be reconciled.
Okay. Very good.
I know that the rest are coming from requests from Park and Rec, the Acushnet Schools, Buzzards Bay College.
Sarah's here from the school, so.
And
Sarah.
Historic Commission, I think Historic Commission is here, schools are here, Buzzards Bay is here.
And Chad couldn't make it tonight. He did send me a quick email so I can,
Yeah,
once they go.
but Sarah, I know
through it,
you've been
I
here
can-
for a while, so if you want to go talk about the 125,000 for the schools.
I have Angie Bujeri here as well, who's been very involved in the project.
I,
Good evening, board. Thank you for having us. So we recently applied for preservation funds in the amount of $125,000. And this was for recreational rehabilitation. So we're looking to upgrade the outdoor basketball courts at the schools, the tennis courts, and then put some, remove existing bleachers at the Ford Middle School and put new bleachers in. And
We're using the grant, so.
yes, we're also applying funds from the ESSER 2 and the ESSER 3 grants. I think we have about $104,000 coming from that. And the idea is just like, we're kind of trying to do this just overall greenscape project and update the recreational facilities and just the green space outside and make it more user-friendly for our students and for the community. I was gonna take pictures today and then it was pouring rain out, so I didn't. But the basketball courts and the tennis courts over there are in really bad shape. There's grass growing up through some of the cracks, the nets need to be replaced, they need to be resurfaced.
So basically, we have the beautiful soccer fields that we have now, right? We're almost done with those phases. And we have that little track area where the community uses constantly, even in the rain. They're always there. And we have so many people in our community that are using our school area that we just need to improve it.
100%?
I mean, the basketball courts are shameful, as well as the tennis courts. And what we were thinking and what the,
Whose code is that?
the city.
probably Sarah's.
No, it was not me. The tennis courts, we were thinking about the Community Preservation Society or committee had suggested pickleball too, to put the pickleball lines in, which Fairhaven has a beautiful complex right now, so we're hoping that more Acushnet residents won't go across the border, they'll stay here in our community.
What kind of ball?
Pickleball. Mr. Gaspar, you'll have to.
It's all the rage.
Never heard of
It
it.
is the rage.
It's
So,
kind of
again-
almost like tennis, but
And ping pong,
Yeah.
all together. So, again, we're trying to get more community members to our location because we have such a great space in the school district. And we really want to approve it. And as for the bleachers inside the gym at the middle school, I mean, we know we have hundreds of kids that play basketball there, and our bleachers are pitiful.
Oh, it's
Empty.
internal, it's inside the school?
Yeah, those bleachers that we're asking for, we're gonna redo them all. We're gonna add a couple of levels to actually fit people in there, and
So
Just-
right
we
now,
gotta-
so right now they're seating for
Can
50.
we sell the old ones as historical?
they're too dangerous.
There's pieces of metal that stick out
Yeah.
from them, and sometimes we bang them back in, but then the metal comes back out.
Have they ever been
And we've had
replaced? Those bleachers?
I don't think they've been replaced in 17, 20 years.
And
They're
they
the
were,
original.
and they were used when the
They
school
were
got them.
donated.
They were donated from the sheriff's department, I think.
We've heard a lot of stories, so
Yeah.
we're not exactly
But kids are
sure.
getting caught on the metal,
Yeah.
and then, they're seating for 50, and we don't have an auditorium in the school. So when we have assemblies or all get together, or when there's basketball games, people are sitting on the floor, and just all over.
It's not
just
conducive.
Yeah.
So we're asking, since the preservation has the money to use, that we just upgrade our areas for the community.
Well, Sarah, I think a couple things. One, consider this a standing invitation for you and the school committee to come in to please access CPC money. That's what it's for, right?
We just learned that we had it when
To
we,
build,
Little
you know,
Toy.
That's why, that's what we use for the soccer fields, like that. School campus is really, become an outside community center, right? And so
Absolutely.
whatever you can do to upgrade that so that people can use it with, the walking path and, I'm all for that. I think it's above and beyond just a school, it's become a great place, and the more people use it, the better they feel about the schools. And when they feel good about the schools, they go to town meeting, you know that, how that works. So I think, good for you for coming forward.
And that's our vision as well, is to just bring the school, bring the communities all into our area and just make it the best possible
Right.
area it can be.
But Mr. Gasper might be onto something, that I bet you if you contacted Old Colony and they were to grab the wood from the bleachers, they probably could turn it into like tables and stuff that you could auction off or whatever. Because I've heard that in other
I might be
communities.
by to look at some of that wood.
And, but there may be
That's
something there,
interesting.
there may be some there, right? You never know.
I can bring that up at the school committee tonight, because we have one at 5:30.
So it's, we don't
That's
know
interesting.
what it is or what kind of wood it is, but I'd love to take a look at that, and maybe we could do some projects, outdoor tables, whatever it may be, repurposing all that wood, dowel them together.
Yeah, we'll keep an open mind on it.
Whatever, we can figure it out though, so let's not just chuck it in the dumpster, or you might find me inside that dumpster.
We won't call the
Saturday.
police.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. It's Alan, right?
It is.
Alan from Buzzards Bay, come on up.
So, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. Alan Decker with the Buzzards Bay Coalition. Our request is for $85,000 from the open space allocation and partially from the unallocated funding to apply to a project of ours, which is an open space habitat protection, public passive recreation, and drinking water supply project that covers, in this case, 77 acres in the southeastern corner of Acushnet, but also expands beyond the borders, making this a multi-town project. There's also acreage in the project in Mattapoisett and in Rochester. So this is a multi-town project, if you will. We're looking for, as I mentioned, $85,000 to go into our cost to acquire this property. The long-term protection would be through a conservation restriction over the portion in Acushnet to the Conservation Commission to be co-held with other partner town entities to ensure passive recreation and public access can occur. The committee, the Community Preservation Committee, heard the application and the presentation in their meeting. Unanimous support for it, and with the town administrator's guidance at that meeting, determined that the project could be funded under available funding.
happy to answer questions that you might have. I also want to add that this is a project, the overall larger Mattapoisett River Land Protection Project is a project that this board did support as part of the town of Mattapoisett's submittal of a Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, MVP. Acushnet has, that's one of the plans the town has current on, which is good, but this board did support that overall grant application, and this is a component, this 77 acres is a component of that project that you supported previously.
Right. When was that support given? What year?
That was earlier this year. Let me tell you exactly. That would have been April, the letter's dated April 26th of 2022, addressed to Kara Runston, signed by, in this case, Chairman DeRoche on behalf of the board.
Where's this 77 acres?
Southeastern part of the town. I'm happy to hand up maps if you'd like to see them at
You
this
have
point.
one?
I do have.
It's not over off of where Mattapoisett and New Boston Road, where that last parcel was that you purchased back in like 2016, was it?
It's not that. It's not that. It's in that general area. It doesn't actually have road frontage. The access for the property as it stands will be from Mattapoisett. Again, I'm happy to hand up maps if you'd like to see them.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Mr. Chair, through you. There's extras. But ideally, in the long term, you'll see on that map there are other existing protected areas in the immediate area. We are in conversation with a landowner for a property to the immediate west of the parcel outlined in red. Hopefully that will come to fruition and then we will have connection. But in the interim, we'll have connection to access in Acushnet. But in the interim, as we're continuing to work on that over the coming years, access for this project could happen from, I believe it's Long Plain Road, Mattapoisett, or from other existing, already publicly accessible property that the coalition is part of, just to the
Where's the
east.
parcel that we're discussing for the 77 acres? What parcel? Orange and red?
No, it's
red.
Sir, it's the parcel in red. The orange is the complementary larger project, which is 241 acres total. So.
And that's in this big 54 and the 1410, small piece.
Then there are two small parcels directly on the town line with Mattapoisett that totals the 77 acres.
So the majority of this acreage is in Acushnet?
Correct.
And this acreage it's just on the Tinkham Brook, but
it is certainly in the watershed for
How much of this is uplands and versus wetlands, and what's developable, what's not developable? It looks like it's all in Acushnet, no?
Well, the 77 acres is in Acushnet. The portion that you'll see outlined in red that's in Mattapoisett is about 2.5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 79.5 acres total, but the Acushnet portion is where the Conservation Commission's authority, if you will, or oversight for the conservation restriction would sit. As far as the breakdown of wetlands versus uplands, I don't have acreages for that, but I'm looking at other coverages other coverage maps that we had in the application, and there is a swath. I'm happy to share. I only have one of these, but I'm happy to share. There's a swath, if you will. That's a technical term. I apologize. Again, I don't have an acreage breakdown, but I can hand this map
This would
up.
connect all the other, the stuff in orange. That's what you're looking to do.
That's what we're looking to do. We are going to acquire. Yeah, that's the one I have of the wetlands that I meant to go. Yeah, if you, Lisa, can you make a quick copy? Is that what you do? Perfect. Thank you very much. So the larger parcel, the larger project will be ownership will be spread between Buzzards Bay Coalition, and then potentially in Mattapoisett, the lands will be owned by the water department there. This is also in Mattapoisett, viewed as a principally as a drinking water supply protection project. We already have funding commitment. The coalition already has over $1 million into this project. The River Valley Advisory Committee has committed $150,000 to the project, and the MVP grant was awarded to the town of Mattapoisett. So,
But this bigger parcel's in Acushnet that you're looking to acquire, and you're talking about Mattapoisett, but this is Acushnet land. Mattapoisett's not going to be able to go for water on Acushnet's land, is it?
not for water. You mean wells and such? No, sir.
This is just an aggregate of area to protect where their wells are for their drinking water supply.
And private citizens in Acushnet as well. It is in the aquifer for the Mattapoisett River. So all that's being proposed though for the red parcel is passive recreation. We're intending to prevent future change of use so that drinking water is the aquifer for drinking water for the river is protected. There are also priority habitats that are worthy of protection as well within those areas. Yeah. On this map that was just handed, thank you very much, Ms. Leonard. The wetlands is the beige color. The purple just simply shows you a buffer of 300 feet to the mapped wetlands. Now, the mapped wetlands are not ground truthed on this map. It's expected that the wetlands are more pervasive than were mapped. This was not ground truth. This is done through GIS imagery and the like.
All right. So anybody else have any questions? Mr. Dayton?
Mr. Chairman, my concern is, first of all, I appreciate everything the coalition does. My main concern is the coalition is asking for $85,000 from Acushnet, but it appears right now no one in Acushnet has access from Acushnet. Am I correct in assuming that anyone from Acushnet would have to go to Mattapoisett to get access to this property as it currently stands?
It appears that way.
Well, that's correct. I mean, there is no frontage for these properties in Acushnet. We are working on getting that frontage. That involves other landowners, but this particular landowner, we have it under contract to acquire. The public will be able to access that, includes residents of Acushnet, will be able to access it either through frontage on Long Plain Road, yes, that is in Mattapoisett, or through other properties that we own and that the Fairhaven Acushnet Land Preservation Trust owns. FALPT's property is in Acushnet. It is accessed from the south.
Do you have any anticipated timeline when people from Acushnet could have access?
Well, people from Acushnet will have.
In Acushnet.
I
Like
don't.
an Acushnet access
I understand
point.
that. No, sir, I don't.
That's my concern.
I don't have an answer to that because we don't have any agreements in place with abutting landowners at this point. We are working on those, but I cannot say in a specific time period there will be access from an Acushnet road to this parcel. That's not to minimize that it will be publicly accessible.
Okay, I trust that you will continue to work to get access.
Absolutely, because there's other properties that are directly involving Tinkham Brook, which we feel is critical to protect. We just don't have anything in place at the current time as I stand here today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Pauline from the Historic Commission. It looks like you've got two articles here. I mean, they seem pretty straightforward. Repair the roof at the Long Plain Museum and repair windows at the Long Plain Museum, right? I mean, I don't know, gentlemen. Again, we're not voting on anything tonight, but if there's any specific questions on that, pretty straightforward.
I have no questions for Mr. Texera.
Okay. All right, we'll provide a supporting document to the board. Mr. Dakin, my apologies to you. It occurred to me as I saw you sitting there that perhaps would have been better for you to go through all these articles as a test, as a test run, and we could get into the, in the rhythm of town meeting. So maybe next time we'll make a vote to have the moderator, a reminder to have the moderator walk us through the articles next time, if anything, just gives you a public-facing opportunity.
The moderator has been meeting with the town meeting team on numerous occasions and has been very involved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'm a big
Thank you, gentlemen.
repetition and muscle memory, right? Les, you never have enough practice.
As Bill Belichick says, games are won on the practice field.
That's right. There you go.
The next three articles are placeholders for the three of the collective bargaining agreements.
And the remaining gentlemen are zoning articles. I don't know that I plan to go through these tonight. I think there's a process with the planning board that they still must go through, correct?
I talked to town council about the moratorium, solar moratorium. He said that it would run till the beginning of November, this moratorium. He said that the Attorney General does not usually allow a second moratorium, and that if this article is not moved forward, then the prior solar bylaw would come back in place.
Got it.
And it would, all the permits filed would be under that bylaw.
Okay. What I would ask is, in advance of town meeting, I guess the next step is we will have to do a meeting to, approve these articles.
I asked for representatives from the planning board to be here, but I think the planner had a medical issue, medical appointment. He wasn't able to be here, so I am not willing to speak in explanation of these articles. So.
And I don't want us to do that tonight because we got other issues that are going on, but what I was suggesting either at the meeting where we approve these articles or we dedicate a meeting to just these zoning issues. It is pretty in-depth. Yeah. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I would expect them at our next meeting when we either approve or disapprove.
Right. Okay. All right, so that is it for the town meeting articles. Again, this was just a pre-read. If there are any members of the board who have questions or concerns, relay that to the town administrator and to the moderator, and we'll go over these at the next meeting or the meeting after that. All right.
These need to be done before September 30th.
Yep.
Because we need to post for 2 straight weekends, and that would be October 2nd when you have to start doing that to make a town meeting, so.
All right. So let's get back into the agenda. Is Kathy here, or is she?
She's there, she's upstairs.
Okay. You know what? Kathy, 1 second. If I'm gonna, sorry to jump around one more time, but I see Mr. Isaac is standing there. Ed, I'm gonna take you on now to just deal with the golf course stuff, and then we can talk about that. Then we're gonna be voting on anything tonight, but I just wanna hear what you have to say. This is under old business, gentlemen. All right, Mr. Isaac.
Yes, I'm here to seek approval to purchase 2 pieces of equipment for the golf course. The first one is a slicer seeder, which is basically will be used to reseed the fairways of the golf course. As you know, we've had a severe drought, and it's causing the fairways to brown. And what we need to do is purchase a piece of equipment that will allow to cut and reseed the fairways. The cost is $19,000.
What are we looking at? I don't know if I have.
Under old business,
Is there one sheet of paper with all articles on it? What is he, well,
Yeah, they didn't.
So you just, again, we're just framing the issue.
Yeah.
So this is from an old article, right? This is Ed from the golf slicer cedar purchase and trailer purchase. That was the, it says, you're referencing Article 9, May 29th, town meeting, 2019 rather,
I think that's only for the trailer.
May 9th, 2019.
confused. I don't have anything talking about a slicer.
Right.
Is that, you're just proposing that, correct?
I'm proposing, we have pre-ordered it and we would like to pay for it.
Okay. Where does
So
the
we
source
need
of funding?
approval. Pardon?
Where would the source of funding come from?
This, right now in our FY '23 operating budget, we had $33,000 for capital use.
Got it, okay.
We have no other funding because that article last spring of the 150,000 never got on the articles.
Never went forward.
So we have the 300,000 hopefully that goes in October.
Right.
But right now, there's no funding available. But
For the golf?
We do have the 33,000 in our current operating budget.
Right, to pay for the, to buy the
To buy
slicer.
it, right.
Okay, so that's the
And we
request.
really need to get started and do the reseeding of the fairways while the weather's still
Right.
reasonably warm and we can generate the seed.
So you budget it, you have it in the budget.
Right.
For capital purchase of a golf slicer cedar. It's already, the funds are available in the existing budget.
Jamie, is that in the end reserve, like we do for water and sewer? Or are they below through that already? We have a reserve at the top.
Yeah, we have 100,000 in reserve, but this is not.
This is operating.
This is out of the.
Just off the operating
Right.
thing? So you said it's due to the drought. There was
Right.
some chatter around we didn't want to water because of the permit for watering. We don't want to run sprinklers in the afternoon.
We were allowed to use only so many gallons of water. And as we're getting, I think the permit allows us to use 18 million gallons over this season. And we're currently approaching that number. But that's not the real reason. It's a concern, it's an issue. But the drought has been so severe that you just can't irrigate the grasses but artificially. You gotta have something from nature to keep things green. And the superintendent's doing a pretty good job irrigating every other day, nearly 300,000 gallons a day, to keep the things going.
In the cedar, that is essentially to, in the fall, typically you aerate and then reseed to generate growth, right? That's you always
Right,
plant
right.
your grass in the fall. So I don't know if you do that with your lawn, but I do it with my lawn, is that you do an overseed. And there's a couple ways you can do it. You can aerate it, put dirt down and then overseed,
Right.
or you do a cedar, which it basically cuts into the grass,
Right.
embeds the seed into it, and then it generates that way and regrows.
It's a piece of equipment that's been in discussion for many years, but we've always seemed to held it off just to save the money. But with this drought condition,
It beat up the
it's
grass. This
obvious
is a way of
that we need-
regenerating
Right.
the fairways and regenerating the
And
grass.
we need to get the fairways green again come spring. Right now, it's a situation where we actually had to restrict golf cart uses to the golf cart paths. And golfers just do not like that. So what we need to do is grow grass again. And this is
And it's, I mean, to be honest with you, it's something that you should be doing every year at this time of the year. Again, I mean,
When
it's a
we
common
can-
practice for
when we
people's
can
lawns.
afford it. It's before, prior to COVID situation, and we were struggling financially, so we were not spending money. COVID was really a godsend, believe it or not, because the revenue is up significantly.
No problem spending it now, huh?
This is the stuff that you gotta do, this is maintenance, but I leave it up to the board to decide how you wanna do it.
I just don't understand what this piece of paper is, why I have an old copy of a book. Looks like our annual report book, if I was guessing, because it's even got page numbers in it. And so where did this, Mr. Kelly, do you know where this came from?
No, I do not.
I don't understand why this is here for us to look at, I don't get this at all. It talks
I think
about-
it's referencing
Oh,
the
maybe
fact
this
that-
is the old 150,000 that
we were
never went
talking
through
about,
that you
that
talked
never went through.
about.
That's what he's referencing, is that.
Yeah, there's an old article, and I guess, so it was in the annual report, which is weird, but it never made it to the town meeting for us to
So
look
Kevin,
at.
you know
That's
what,
weird.
this has to do with two, this is what this is, all right? As we were going through the article, Mr. Isaac referenced the fact that we had they had proposed 150,000 at town meeting and it never went forward, and that's evidence of that. So like, it's two conversations, they probably should have been, it was back up to the article, but it's in the golf discussion, that's what.
Yeah, I know, but it shows that it looks like I made a motion on town meeting floor, but he's saying that we never went to town meeting.
It never happened, well, I think it never happened at town meeting.
Right, you can't publish that in your report, that's weird. That's the weirdest thing.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
after you
well,
heard today, any surprise?
No. No, disappointed, but very
So I guess
disappointed.
the question is, are we okay with giving them the authority to purchase the golf slicer out of existing funds and the existing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, they gotta, if they need it, they need it, right? And you got it covered inside the budget, do what you need to do, but try to put a leash on that spending.
Is there a motion to approve?
So, second.
All those in favor? Aye. Gentlemen, the next item, and Mr. Isaac, I'll take this from here, I'll be happy to advance this if it's okay, is for consideration, we don't have to do it now, but, you know, the golf course is at its 22nd anniversary, right? 98 is when we opened up. So actually 24, almost hitting our 25th anniversary. And when the golf course opened up years ago, there was a PGA report, business plan that the golf course committees followed, and was the blueprint for their success. And so I think at this point, had a chance to meet with Mr. Isaac and Mr. Goulart, because we hear a lot of discussion about what are the next 25 years gonna look like at the golf course, right? And so it could come in many forms. It could be town, we don't even know what the appraisal value is of that course, you know, does the town sell it? Not a first option, but all options should be on the table. Does the town take over, continue operating the clubhouse and the maintenance of it? Or do we put it out to bid for a third party to do those service like we did originally when we opened up? We found out that wasn't a great deal for us, and that's why we took it over. There's a lot of chatter about a clubhouse, right? And so I just felt like it made sense to give the golf course the tools that they need in the form of technical expertise and guidance to do a business report on what the next 25 years should look like at the golf course. And so I asked Ed, we wanted to put this on the agenda, I wanted to advance it to the board. I think the town, Falmouth, the golf course in Falmouth has done that, and it's kind of standard operating procedure for an entity like this to bring in a consultant and, do a market analysis, look at the golf course, and provide us with some recommendations on how to approach it. Because I think the golf course committee, while committed, needs this type of help, and I know as a member of the board, I think it would be beneficial to have an unbiased third party take a look at this. So we don't have to make a decision tonight on it, if you have questions, but I did want to at least socialize it and put it before the board for some type of consideration and discussion. Bob?
Definitely worth looking into, especially for longevity purposes. It'd be nice to see, once the revenue starts coming in, to see how we could expand revenue, and that as somebody that doesn't play golf, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what I'd be looking at anyway, but I can understand numbers, so.
I don't know what the projected cost is to have I guess a consultant to come in, but I can tell you something right now. Should have had a clubhouse built 10 years ago, right? So, and we've lost a lot of revenue because we don't have a real clubhouse. So I talked about that probably 10 years ago on the lack of food and beverage line item. And we were bringing in like $1 and change. A bottle of water cost $2 at that point per round of golf. And I said, if we can get that food and beverage to $10, you generate $200,000 more in revenue each year. So, just on that revenue projection, that's $2 million more that we've been out. So, I don't know what the consultant, what they're gonna look at, and how much it's gonna cost, depending on the cost of whatever we're doing, and look at it from there, but.
I guess the question would be before the board, not to approve any art, we obviously would be to ask the golf course committee to work with Mr. Kelly, who's our procurement officer, on an RFP, come back to the board, see if it meets what we think we want to find out of it, and then there's no downside in issuing the RFP and see what comes back. If it's something that's too expensive, then we don't do it. But I don't see any downside at least going through that process and asking the golf course to work with Mr. Kelly on at least initiating that and come back with a recommendation.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Motion? Is there a motion to?
Make a motion to have the golf committee look for some RFPs
For a consultant.
for a consultant.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go. All right.
One more capital purchase. We have leftover funds in one of the articles from a special town meeting in November. We have $21,090 left in that account. And the golf committees recommend that we use that fund to purchase a trailer for a greens mower. And the trailer we purchased we have in-house. But the mower, and we hope to use a trailer we already have to transport the mower around to the golf course, to the various greens. But there's a safety issue with the mower being tipsy or whatever. And the recommendation is to buy one that's appropriate for that hand mower. And the golf committee voted to approve that we spend $1,850 to buy a trailer.
The trailer they're looking is made for that mower.
Right. We tried to make do without.
It's a push mower?
It's a pretty large 26-inch hand mower that's pushed by hand. And you got to transport it to the various greens to use them. But the trailer we had just isn't adequate. So we got $2,190 available in that article. Recommendation is that we use that to purchase a trailer.
You said it was 1,800?
Yeah, 1,850. 1,850.
Spend the rest of the article, buy some flags for the trail, I don't know.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you, Mr. Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac.
Keep up the good work. All right, Kathy.
Good evening. I think we're going to start with talking about water, if that's okay, water rates.
Yeah.
So I know Todd led into it. When you take, I think you have a schedule that shows our estimated increase in billing. So that's based on a 5-year average. Based on that, we could not make the budget. We couldn't make the income to cover the budget. So 2 things have to happen. One of them was we have to, we're gonna remove the 60,000 for the reserve, because that's only there as an emergency, but we never use it. And the $70,000, what Todd was talking about, we're gonna take that out of the billing. Even with those two things taken out, you still have a negative $109,000 you have to cover in order to cover the expenses in the budget. My recommendation, I gave four tiers. If you do tier number 1, which is 60 cents on each tier level, which would bring it to $6.75, $7.25, and $7.75, then in the end of the year, we should be adding only $14,000 to the surplus, assuming we spend the entire budget, which we have yet to do. So hopefully it'll be higher than 14,000. That kind of an increase for your smallest group, which is your seniors and your people live by themselves, which is 0 to 500 cubic feet, would only add $3 to their quarterly bill, which would be $12 for the year. If you did all the way up to the 1,500, it would be $9. So that's your largest group of users, so it would be $9 added to their budget each quarter, for a total of $36 for the year. I would prefer never to increase rates, but we haven't increased in a while. Betsy's been increasing theirs every single year. We've kept ours down and compared to theirs the best that we can. When we spend the budget in the water, we look at every penny we spend. I look at, because we want to make sure that the money goes back to the residents as much as we can.
So, City of New Bedford, since 2016, which is basically a year after we took over DPW, City of New Bedford, as far as the sheet that she's provided to us, looks like the City of New Bedford's rate has gone up 52%, and we've gone up on the lower tier, because it doesn't break out all 3 tiers on this spreadsheet, we've gone up 9.6%. So we've had a bunch of 0 years, absorbing those costs. I can't, I've been over some of these numbers, I can't fathom really what's gone on. I have a bunch of numbers that I've been working with. Water loss is a big concern. Water loss, if we took all the water that we lost and sold it at our current rate, it's $162,000 that we've lost. If we took the water loss that we've lost and we sold it at the current rate the City of New Bedford charges us, it still comes out to $115,000. So there's something, I mean, obviously with the consumption numbers that she put together for us, something seems a bit screwy all the way around, whether it's the numbers that we were generating previously with surplus, but we are selling a lot less water than what we have in prior years, and that goes all the way back 20 years.
This past year was the lowest of water we have sold, but our water loss was only 12%. The DEP says anywhere between 10 and 15% is acceptable.
Yeah.
We do our meter change-outs, we do the best we can to make sure we are always fixing it. We do obviously have water loss, and we have water main breaks, and we've had a few of those in the past year. We actually were at 8% for the past 2 years before, and then 4 and 4. I highly suspect our water loss will go down this year because you have a very dry summer, which means we sold a lot more water. So I think our surplus we will add to will actually be larger. I think we'll have a larger usage than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'm just going based off this spreadsheet that you provided. The water loss has jumped, and I know that we've had a couple, as Ms. Silva has just said, a couple of major breaks. I don't know how much water loss we've gotten towards that, but we have jumped as far as water loss, and the amount of water we sold has dropped dramatically. And from the September quarter, from 2021 to the September quarter of 2022, that difference alone was $117,000 from one year to the other, 21 to 22. So that's a pretty significant drop just in that one quarter. So again, it's something that I've always tried to jump into and try to do a better job of figuring out how it's all come about. But this one's a little bit tricky, and I'm still playing around with all this.
Well, we also went in from a pandemic. You gotta remember, we had the pandemic and everybody stayed home. So we sold a lot of water for a year and a half. And then everybody went back to work and back to normal life. So obviously water use.
Yeah, but it was just, what I'm saying to you is on that quarter, Kath, that quarter was the only quarter that we really got pinched on, was that September quarter. All the other quarters.
Your September quarter is the summer quarter, just everybody
Yeah.
knows. That's June,
Yeah.
July 1st is September.
Well, you
quarter.
talked about the pandemic, and I'm just saying that from the 2021, September 20th quarter, we did 467,000. The year later, in that same September quarter, we did 349. And that's a difference of 117,000 year over year, and that's the fiscal year we're talking about, how we kind of lost money, which is kind of odd, because we never lost money. So I'm just kind of figuring out what went wrong.
Well, part of it is that we didn't increase the rates, like New Bedford is. So it's going, if we're paying more than New Bedford, we're not increasing the rates, we're going to lose money.
So Kathy, the options you gave us two options, right? One was a $12 a year increase, the other one was a $36 a year increase to the average.
Well, what I was saying, no, so on the first tier, it's 60 cents on
Right.
each one. So your smallest group of people, and there's about 400 residents, that is in that 0 to 500,
Yeah.
which is your lowest one, which would only increase their bill $9 for a quarter,
Right.
which would be the 36.
Okay.
If you take that entire group, which is your 1,500, then that would raise it, that would raise it the $9. The 500 people would only be $3. So even at that highest number of 1,500 on your bottom tier people, it would be $9 at the maximum
Got it.
for the quarter.
It's kind of weird too, because that number, when we started doing this, that number, the 0 to 1,500, when you change to the tier, that number is 65%. It's only 45% or 40% now.
That's correct.
So that's kind of strange too.
I expect that will change. That's an average, and I expect that will change as well because we have the pandemic time in there when more people were home. Usage went up. So I think that you'll have it fall back to, you'll see it back a little bit into the lower one in the years to come.
It's a lot of moving parts, and it's tricky, as Ms. Silver will tell you, it's very tricky trying to figure out the budget, right? Because all it is the budget's really just for you paying the city of New Bedford anyways. It's just an estimation of what you've done in prior years, and then you usually just add 5–10% or whatever it is. We did go pretty high because of the pandemic when we did last year's budget, which I don't think we had too much budget conversations because of the pandemic for that year that was set. So we increased it, now we're decreasing it, and that was a substantial, I think it was 20%. We increased from 1 million to 1.2 million. So as much as it, I never want to raise anybody's rates for anything, right? Everybody's getting pinched no matter where you go. So,
Right,
but
exactly.
I will say this: your water bill is your cheapest utility in your household. So, not happy about going up, but if that's what she says, Mr. Menard's figured out with her for this current fiscal year to be at the rate, so be it. I'll keep digging in, but see if we can make sense of it all, but something strange is happening.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
It's her recommendation to just go up to 60 cents.
That's my recommendation, yes.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now back onto the good news. So the sewer analysis, we did that one. Based on the fact that I went back and looked again at what we actually budgeted versus what I expect to use, I felt comfortable removing the 60,000 from the reserve. If there's an emergency, that's a separate issue. And also removing 90,000 out of the billing. I don't expect us to use as much in the sewer as we had expected during the budget.
Okay.
So with that being said, I expect with our estimated billing in our budget, we should be able to add to surplus $40,000 in sewer. So I would actually recommend no increase in sewer. Also, I don't like to increase both. When your sewer users are always your water users, and we only have like 983 sewer users at this point. If we're increasing the water to 60 cents, that already affects your sewer users.
Okay.
So I would like to not increase the sewer rate.
All right, that's good news.
Yes.
Motion to freeze sewer rates.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right.
That's the one that's hurting people. So, I have a question. If we're reducing $70,000 from the water budget from what we just approved moving forward, and it's in an article to do so, and then I look at
it says you're removing, which obviously the reserve's not part of it, because that's from surplus. You also, from sewer, you wanna remove $90,000 from building? Is that what that says?
Yes, that's correct.
So then we have to change the warrant, because that's not included in the warrant. You only have water for 70,000, you don't have sewer for 90,000. So that needs to be changed by him.
I'll have Todd contact Kathy, and they've been working together on a number of issues and clarifying things, and we will amend the warrant to reflect that.
Because it says $90,000, she's got that, and if that's while we're making rate, then we need an article, just like we did for water, for sewer, so that we don't deficit on that one. Because we all know the DOI doesn't allow us to deficit spending enterprise funds. So, that's that.
The next thing was the Hamlin Street Bridge. The bids went out, the bids for this project were open on August 2nd of 2022. The contract was awarded to Mass Building Inc., Mass spelled M-A-S, on August 22nd, 2022. On September 27th, there'll be a meeting, it will be a Zoom meeting that with them as well as DOT with the DPW and other departments within town. So we should have a better understanding at that timeframe. So we'll be working with Mass Building Inc. now. Going forward.
All right, thank you.
That was good. And I think you have a senior deferral, did I?
Yep. All right, that's
Good job, son.
Right.
Number 3, under DPW.
Yep.
We don't get into it's redacted, we don't get into the names.
Yes. Yeah.
It's something that we do every year for this individual, and I don't know, where are we, number 3?
Number 3.
Yep. Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, great. All right, bulk item pickup.
So bulk item pickup is on, I didn't ask this to be on, I assume all of you did.
Yeah, we did.
So
yeah.
we have a few issues with this. Number one being, we don't have a full staff of the DPW. We're down 2 people right now. I'm having a very hard time getting people to interview for the position at the rate that we're paying. So I think it will take us a little while to be fully staffed again. So there is no way we can do a bulk item pickup until we are fully staffed at the DPW. That's number one. Number 2, you only have $30,000 in your article to pay for it. We need at least $50,000 to $80,000 with all the price increases with vendors and CMAS. And we went from $64 a ton to dump to $90 a ton to dump garbage. And then if Waste Management took over and did it, it would be anywhere from $100,000 to $120,000 because they would charge $36 per item for pickup.
It's what the townspeople want, we'll have to have that conversation, but I'm not in favor of dissolving those articles.
No.
So we'll figure it out when budget season comes up, and if we can't do it in the fall, we'll figure it out somehow, some way. But if there's free cash, we've been throwing that around, and you see what all the money in CPC tonight is. You got money, let's spend it. So, you know, we never get to give back to the community and the taxpayers, in my opinion. And taxpayers have voted for it, I think, 2 different times. I'm not taking that away from them.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
So Kathy, the scope of bulky item, like, is there anything that we can do to at least, you know, like, tackle part of the problem? You know, there's certain items that we can put, I'm just wondering, like, to contain the costs with a third-party vendor. It's clear that we're not gonna be able to use in-house staff to accomplish this, right? Is that something that we would put out as a separate RFP, or is it just Waste Management? Are there other options other than just dealing with our current vendor?
I don't think we're allowed to deal with a different vendor because we have a contract with Waste Management and they have a bulky item pickup that they do for the residents. And they charge $36 per item. So when a resident cannot bring an item to the recycling center, they can call Waste Management, which they do, and they just have to put it curbside, and Waste Management picks it up with them on a schedule. So they call Waste Management, they give them the credit card, and then Waste Management will go and pick it up. We've been
Right,
using
so-
that, we've been doing that for a little while now. And also, the recycling center does take many, many, many items. I don't think we turn anything away, because we also what's called a bulky item. That you can bring like a truckload of stuff, a carload of stuff. So everything that you could bring, I mean, you would get picked up, you can bring to the recycling center. You have to pay for some of it. That's, I think where we're getting stuck. And then the large item pickup, I'll be honest, Mr. Menard's concern as well as mine is, we have an older staff, and I don't think they can physically do what you're asking them to do.
Right. So the question I have is then, can we bring on temporary employees for a one-time, you know, like we would hire seasonal employees, or there's got to be a way, an outside the box way to handle this, other than to say, you know, we've got an older staff that can't do it, or waste management, there, you know, X, you know, could we create a rebate program? So if people who are calling waste management, they're paying the $36 and they get rebated. I don't know, there's gotta be a way to skin this cat.
I mean,
To
you could
just say
think-
no.
If it's the large, if it's a pickup part that people are concerned about, that's a separate issue, but you, as the board, could have a free weekend at the recycling center that people could bring everything there for free. That's an option.
I think we talked about that. I recall approaching that last year, you know. We should think creatively, because no, I don't think is an option. There's gotta be a way to figure this thing out in some shape or form, so. I don't know how the board feels about that. I'm happy to volunteer.
We'll figure it out,
To,
one way or another, we will figure it
come back
out.
with a recommendation. Yeah. Happy to do that. I know every member of this board has at one point pledged that they would crack this code. Still isn't getting done, so maybe we come up with something.
It's just, it's also difficult, you have to remember, you have 5 days of the week that trash is picked up. And it's done that way because you have a lot of streets, and you have a lot of trash, and you have a lot of recycling. So if this was actually done in-house, it would take 5 Saturdays. You have to do it. So it's a lot of logistics. I mean, how do you get 5 weeks of staff, which you would need Dan and myself there as well, because I'd have to be at the recycling center, you have to keep that open, right? So logistically, how do you do that with everybody taking vacation or sick or whatever happens with people? So it's just,
I understand.
it's a scheduling thing too.
Yeah.
But I think starting with like a free weekend at the recycling center would be a great idea, and see how that goes. Maybe we do that, and then have people calling that can't physically pick up, and we allow people that maybe this is a great town, right? I've met a lot of the residents. There are other people that are willing to pick up someone's item and bring it for them that weekend. Or that they call with a list and they give it to us, and maybe it's not that extreme that we can get those 25 houses picked up. Something like that. Those are some of my suggestions.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, those are all good ones, and they're all better than no.
Right.
And so I think that's where we're going at, that's what we're getting at with this, and so, you know, I think maybe every board member should, if you got an idea, we'll get them into Jamie, we'll get them to Mr. Kelly, and, you know, email in, and then maybe we hit on something.
Figure it out. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Have a good
Appreciate it.
night.
All right, since we didn't do the Ask Me, Giat Street.
Yep.
In case anybody has any questions, I just wanted to make sure, I left the letter in your books that we need to send to DCHD, I think it's called.
We get it.
So if we just wanna do that, I mean, we just
Yep.
have to, they'll get us a list and.
Where is it? Let's have them along now.
Together.
Under,
New business number 2.
Number 2. And that property needs to stay in the low-income bracket.
Right, it's either we buy it, or it just goes back into the pool and all that stuff. right?
Exactly.
So, I don't think.
But if there's somebody out there that's on a sale, right? And we don't need to get involved with it, but it just stays in the 40B category, and that housing stock's gotta stay that housing stock, it can never be
Exactly.
taken out.
So
So as long as it's being transferred to somebody else and ain't taken away from the housing stock.
Nope, that's what the DHD.
Yep, all you have to do is-
Forego all right first refusal.
Is there a motion?
There it is right there.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries, great, thank you. All right, next item, and we'll get to the Ask Me stuff. Mr. Bergeron, we touched on it earlier.
Yep.
It's bittersweet, you know, Jerry deserves it, but he's served the town for 50 years in many capacities. To be honest, my greatest time serving with Jerry is when we were on the school committee, 1992, I think it was. So that's when I first met Mr. Bergeron, and just a great guy. And so the question is, you know, what do we want to do with that position? TBD, right? There'll be a discussion that we can have with Mr. Bergeron. I'd like to get his thoughts on it. Mr. Karen and maybe Mr. Fowler. See what they have to say.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bergeron has communicated to me that he would like to see the position transferred to under the fire chief. That is a typical duty of the fire chief in a number of communities, and it is something for the board to consider.
Okay, we don't have to make that decision today, correct?
No.
All right.
Now, Mr. Bergeron, I just want to thank Jerry Bergeron. 50 years of service is not something that, I don't know anybody else that's ever given this community 50 years of service, but that man, whether he was in the fire department, EMA, helping out in the Council on Aging, he's a director over there. That's somebody that wasn't a typical employee of the town. That was somebody that always went to work every day and went above and beyond. The guy was fixing equipment when it wasn't part of his so-called job description. He just cared that much for the community. He did whatever it took to get the job done. Didn't care about a job description or what he was being paid. He just did it for the people of Acushnet because he loves this community. And for somebody to do it for 50 years, truly commendable. So Jerry, thank you very much for your service. I know you're not going anywhere, because I won't let you, but I understand the resignation part and taking off those responsibilities. But again, there's nobody that even comes close to being the employee that Jerry Bergeron was for the town of Acushnet. He's that man. He's a phenomenal individual. So thank you, Jerry, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Not much more to say than that. I thought that was a extremely well put statement by Mr. Gasper here, but thank you, Jerry, for everything you've done, and hope to see you around in a non-official capacity.
All right. All right, there's a motion to accept his letter with regret. So moved. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Gentlemen, we have a number of police department issues. I don't know if the chief is here. He is.
Yes.
There he is.
Just took a nap. You're all set?
You sure?
You've been here for quite some time.
You know, it's probably payback.
Kind of like us.
Well, no, I'd say it's probably payback for some of the.
Motion to
other time-
adjourn.
Payback for some of the other times that I've gone up here ahead of other departments and kind of made them late. But three things. I'm going to start with the. I'm sorry,
Chief,
Yes.
we're going to just take a brief recess.
Yes.
Is there a motion to go to recess?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to reconvene.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're back in open session.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have three issues. I'm going to go through them. The first two are pretty straightforward. The first one is about 6 weeks ago, I was contacted by a town resident that was interested in making a significant donation to the police gift fund. We had taken a donation probably about 2 years ago now. Just read the letter right here. I would like to make an anonymous donation to the Acushnet Police Department gift fund in the amount of $5,000 for the benefit of the police department. I'm making this donation in appreciation of the excellent work done by the police department here in Acushnet. I wish to stress that I wish my donation to remain anonymous. I do not want my name given out. Please contact me when I'll be able to give the donation and how the check needs to be made out. Thank you. I spoke to him in person and he followed up with written correspondence. Longtime town resident and just wants us to be able to have some funds to be able to do different things. He and I talked informally about different things we could do with that money, like outside of the regular budget. You know, some of the things, you know, we talked about the support of the dog program. We talked about perhaps a Citizens Academy or a junior police academy at some point down the road. But he was really adamant about that. The person is known to me, but like I said, he was very adamant about not getting his name out there for a variety of reasons. So I would ask the board, respectfully ask the board to vote to accept that gift, and I can work out with him the details.
Motion to accept. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
To whoever the donor is, thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
Absolutely.
I'll reach out to him and we'll work on that. Thank you very much. The second, number 2 and number 3 both have to do with staffing. The first staffing issue is, again, I feel pretty straightforward, would be in the dispatch center. We currently have, when fully staffed, which we are right now for the dispatches, we have 4 dispatches that work a 4-day on, 2-day off schedule. Basically, that leaves a gap in the schedule of 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 shifts per week that are open. In the past, we'd use part-time officers or part-time officers to plug that hole. We have 1 part-time officer that works maybe 1 day a week, but we're really short-handed on the police side. So what I'm looking for is authorization to hire a part-time per diem dispatcher. We do have one that has a full-time job. She works a couple of shifts a week, has worked out great. I'm looking to hire an additional one. There'd be no, like I said, no guaranteed number of shifts, but this person, well, one of the candidate that I have in mind, should everything work out, if we can move forward, is pretty close to being fully trained, works doing a similar job somewhere else. So if we were even able to get, 2 shifts a month out of this person, I think that would be a significant savings at straight time, because right now those 2 to 3 shifts a week are being filled at about 90% of the time. They're being filled at overtime. So if we can get somebody that can work a couple of shifts a month, or 3 shifts a month at straight time, I think it's a no-brainer.
And you said the other part-time dispatch, there's no more flexibility?
Yeah, she has a full-time job right now, so she's
only picking up a few?
A couple shifts, yeah. I mean, she's well worth it because we didn't have to invest a significant amount of money in training her.
And this one here looks like
Very similar. Very similar.
2 or 3 shifts a week, it'd be nice if we can get 1 or 2 of those a week covered, right?
Yeah.
Just for the fact, I get that previous negotiation with certain selectmen, but, you put right here, dispatch overtime and 4 cents. I think the 4 cents is becoming troubling.
Yes, on both sides, which I'll talk to in a minute,
for
yes.
our police officers, right? I mean,
Dispatches as well. It's, especially when you get one that goes on, you get somebody goes on vacation, or God forbid, somebody be out on sick leave for, a period of time. Right now, knock on wood, the dispatch side is, we have the four excellent full-time dispatches. We just need to do something to try to help them. I mean, obviously, it's a money thing, it's an overtime thing, we all see that, but like the personnel-wise, when you're, there's 2 to 3 shifts a week, they're gonna be filled, and sometimes, people voluntarily take things, but a lot goes to overtime, goes to 4 cents, it's not.
The problem is, I get flashbacks from a long time ago when we retooled the police department. We brought our staff back up to where it should be, right? I was part of that effort, bringing that staff back up from the shortage that we had with the man and overtime, and I remember doing a contract negotiation where fatigue was setting in.
Yes.
Right? And here I am again. Here we are again, but me, because I remember what I did in the past, is now we're doing 4 cents to create the same fatigue.
Yes.
And that's dangerous for a police officer.
Very much so.
So that's a huge concern for myself, and it should be for everybody in our community as well, because the last thing we need is somebody that's banging 60, 70 hours and fatigued out and getting called to.
On an occasion, that's, week here, week there, but, when it's week in and week out, but like I said, the part-time dispatcher under the circumstances, I think is.
You need a motion to approve?
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we'll jump over to the police side, and some of the same issues, that are probably even magnified based on the situation we're in, staffing-wise, in regards to overtime and enforcement on the police side. The last 4 months for the officers there, and the situation has been very trying. I mean, a big part of it is being shorthanded. Another part of it is you're going through the summer months, which is traditionally where officers take a lot of their time off. So these, from beginning of May, when we lost the 2 to the state police, and we had 2 activated for the military, and we had another one activated in late July. We hired July 13th, we were kind enough to appoint 2 officers. One of them, Matt Mello, came to us from another municipality. His training, he had 4 years experience, so he came online relatively quick. He's working in the shift right now. The gentleman that we appointed on the 13th is in an academy due to start December 5th. That was the soonest academy we could get him into. as far as scheduling goes. So he's not due to graduate until May. Then you're looking probably at about a 10-week field training program. So he's probably not going to be here, working shifts, best case scenario, until August 1st. So what we need to start doing, and again, this goes back to I know I sound like a broken record, is we don't have part-timers anymore. And that's difficult to wrap your head around, because I come from the department where for the first 25, 26 years of my career, there were always part-timers. I was one of them. You work one shift a week, and then all of a sudden there was more, you work more. Then you were available to flex. We don't have that anymore. It's gone. So what we need to do in the past, what we used to do in the past is when you sent somebody, or somebody was getting ready to go to the academy, or you had a full-time opening, that part-timer would flex into kind of like a full-time position until we were able to get an academy. If that academy didn't start for 6 months, that's the way it was. Well, we don't have those part-timers right now. The academies that are available to us run intermittently, so to speak. They're not on a regular schedule. So what I'm looking for is some sort of a commitment from the board, not just for myself, but for the people the officers that are working, that have been forced in. I mean, we had the Apple Peach Festival this weekend. We tried to fill that with our community, tried to fill it with outside community, but on Saturday, everybody that was there was forced in from our department, when we're already running shorthanded on the patrol side. So I was glad to get through it, because this next few months, it would be almost like a little bit of a slowdown, where we don't have that preponderance of vacation time and things of that nature. A time to kind of rest up before we get to the holidays, and then, there'll be a couple weeks there that'll be hectic, and then, knock on wood, everybody stays healthy. But we're really shorthanded, so I'm looking for a commitment from the town to appoint a number of officers, and we can stagger when we send them to an academy, but just so the officers can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because right now, we have somebody lined up to go to the academy, in one person to go. We are expecting people back from the military, but there are a number of variables. The two that are due back, they give you a window, May to July, that they might be back, the two. And then the other one, we're gonna have July to September to be back of next year. Everybody's gonna be a year older. You have people, I'll be a year older, other officers will be a year older. You still have the state police. There are still several officers that still appear on the state police exam. They're gonna be putting another academy in. There's also the possibility that officers might be looking at other communities. I'm not saying it's widespread, but one or two more, we lose one or two more people right now, it's going to be devastating. It's difficult right now. We've cut services. Anybody that's tried to get a license to carry, or looking for certain follow-ups from our detective division, there's been an extended wait there, because those officers are working uniform shifts to try to save the thing. So what I'm looking for is, and there is money, I'm actually looking for a commitment to appoint 3 officers, 3 full-time officers. And I'm not saying, it's not like we would appoint them and then they could start tomorrow. Best case scenario, we get them into a February academy, they graduate in August, and then they're on the road in October. Now, if we go to October of next year, there's a whole plethora of things that could happen between now and then. I know we're supposed to get our military people back, but in my short time as chief, their mobilizations have become more and more frequent. Not necessarily for a year, when this is like a unique thing, but I've had 2 officers that have gone for 3 months at a time, twice in the last 2 years. So we need to have like a light at the end of the tunnel. That's all I'm saying. So I think if we try to hire 3 and we space it out, there is money in this year's budget. We were budgeted to send 2 to the full-time academy in the FY23 budget. We lucked out. We were hired an officer who already had the full-time academy. So he's already on board. So there's one there. The officers that are on military deployment, while we are on the hook contractually to pay them a percentage of their salary, it's a small percentage. I estimate, I have the numbers for 2 of the 3. The third one, we're still working out paperwork from him, the one that went the end of July. But I estimate in salaries there, you're going to have in excess of $100,000 in regular salaries. That savings there in FY23 in regular salaries.
You're looking for 3 patrol?
Yes.
So I'm 100% behind that right now, just because of the 3. We have 3 going in military.
Yes.
And we lost 2, but we hired 2, so we're still with the 3, right?
Yep.
That are out in military leave. And then whatever circumstances come up with the current staff from now to then, right?
Yes.
So, there lies the problem, so I'm in favor of that as well.
I completely agree. Whatever you need, chief, we try our best to make sure you get it, because we don't wanna see fatigue like you guys mentioned, so.
My hope is that by next summer is really what I'm concerned about, because we made it through this summer, but it was difficult. It was a difficult summer for everybody there, and people, stepped up and people that don't normally work, and they work together to make things work, but for that to go on another summer, or right now to think that's gonna go on next summer, if there's a commitment there, they're gonna see a light at the end of the tunnel, and no, it's not.
We gotta be proactive, and I'm glad that you're here tonight, chief. I think we talked about it maybe a month ago or something, right? We had a conversation about this and trying to get ahead of the curve, because again, we built the department back up, and then we went back down.
It just takes so long. It takes so long to get people online.
That's what I'm saying.
Without the part-time program.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
Thanks
to the state.
It just takes so long to get them online.
What do you need from us tonight?
I would say a vote to requisition for 3 full-time officers.
Is there a motion to requisition for 3 full-time officers?
Yes, we'll have to requisition a new list.
We're
yes.
gonna need a new list, so we need the.
We have to just call for the list then?
Yes, I was,
So a motion
Lisa
to
Leonard,
call for the
yes.
civil service list.
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it, and
Thank you.
I'm sure the men and women of the police department appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
chief.
Have a nice night.
Chief, is it all right if I reach out to you on some of these other things that we didn't discuss tonight?
Yeah, that two from on the safety
Great
stuff,
job
yes,
on
that's
that.
fine.
Appreciate it,
Yep.
thank you.
You can even add to the list if you want.
All right.
All right, we've got letter of interest for the Historical Commission. John C. Larson, 50 years experience doing genealogical and real estate title research in parts of Eastern Mass, assisting many attorneys. Sounds like a great addition and a great member.
Historical Commission,
Yeah.
motion to appoint John Larson, 1236 Main Street to the Historical Commission.
Is there a...
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Jamie, we're going to ask that you forego the town administrator's report. We can all read it. and
Yeah,
comment.
also there's
We've got,
under old business, maintenance facilities department, there's a job description in there. I would ask that you read it at your leisure.
Okay.
Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I was curious about that, but we'll talk.
Well, I couldn't find a valid job description for that position,
Yeah, well,
so I drafted one.
yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right.
Looks a little strange, but okay.
So we've got an executive session to discuss union ASME contracts, and then we would come back into open session, presumably, to consider that. And then we'll set a date for our next meeting. So gentlemen, is
So
there,
we don't have to come back in, do we? Because it's on the warrant, right?
I guess we'd have to vote it, right?
You'd have to vote
ratify
to
it.
execute it.
That's what we're gonna do. And if there's no agreement, then we say there's no agreement. Executive session under General Law 30A, Chapter 21, subsection A3, to conduct strategy and preparation for negotiations with union personnel, to conduct contract negotiations with union personnel, ASME, police, fire, DPW. An open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, as the chair so declares, and the board will return to public session. Is there a motion to go into to executive session and return?
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gasper?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We are now in executive session.